Meine Damen und Herren, wir starten jetzt in knapp 8 Minuten mit dem Diablo 4 Season 2 Talk. Das heißt, wir kriegen alle Informationen zu Season 2. Der Chat ist schon am Eskalieren. Wir starten mal mit der gemütlichen Frage: Habt ihr jemals eine Collectors Edition gekauft, wo das Spiel enthalten war? Fand ich gut. Also wir haben hier schon die ein oder andere gute Diskussion gestartet, damit wir das gleich mal vorwegnehmen. Heute startet nicht Season 2 von Diablo 4, sondern die zweite Season startet erst am 17.10. Heute kriegen wir aber die Inhalte von Season 2. Zur Erinnerung, Blizzard sagte, sie haben so viel Neues, dass sie 4 Stunden brauchen, um alle Sachen unterzubringen, und deswegen haben wir heute 2 Stunden und am 10.10. kommen nochmal 2 Stunden. Heute kommt das Season-Thema, die Quality Changes, die sie mit einnehmen, anpassen. Dann gibt es wieder Fragen aus der Community und solche Sachen. Und das nächste Mal ist, glaube ich, ein Campfire-Talk mit den Klassendesignern. Da werden die Klassenbalances, die ja mit dem Patch kommen, durchgenommen. Also heute kommen die Sachen, die neu sind, und bei der nächsten Einheit gibt es dann die Klassen-Changes. Von der Season 2, was man da erwarten kann, also kommt ja diese Vampiric Power, weil es ist ja so eine Vampir-Season. Ich denke mal, das wird plus minus das sein, was die Herzen machten oder die Herzen gemacht haben. Also da dürfen wir mal gespannt sein. Und dann on top dazu wird es vielleicht noch ein paar Uniques geben. Es soll ja auch das Unique, das Unique Target Farming möglich sein. Also lassen wir uns mal überraschen. Aber zeigt bitte den Chat, wenn Sie Immortal anfangen. Wenn Sie was von Immortal sagen oder dem Battle Pass, dann switche ich raus und dann schauen wir uns das Ganze inklusive Chat an, ja. Ich habe 21 Collectors Edition rumstehen und 13 davon von Blizzard. Du hast Blizzard 13 Collectors Editions gekauft. Wir machen auch ganz klar, wir werden auch noch ein YouTube-Video machen, wo das Ganze zusammengefasst wird. Ich habe vor 90 Sekunden gesagt, dass heute kein Season-Start ist, und du kommst und fragst, ob heute Season-Start ist. Gibt es Drops? Freunde, es gibt keine Drops und es startet keine Season. Ich glaube, ich werde echt langsam zu alt für das, ey. Wann endet die Season? Mölchen Liska. Wann Raid? Alter, das wär's noch. Diablo 4 Raids. Das sehe ich, ja. Diablo 4 Raids, so wie damals oder so wie in Lost Ark. Das wäre genau das Richtige. Ich freue mich, wenn du den Großvater droppst. Ich habe den Großvater nie gesehen. Ich bin mir gar nicht sicher, ob das losgeht. So, meine Damen und Herren, wir starten.
Season 2 will be our biggest update to Diablo 4 since launch. With a new quest line, events to play as you drive back the vampiric horde, unholy vampiric powers to wield, and new endgame encounters to test your skills.
And players will need to harness the enemy's own blood magic against them to end this new evil before it's too late. In Diablo 4, the Season of Blood.
In Season 2, the people of Sanctuary have a new danger to face: invasion by an army of vampires. This shadowy vampire cult has laid claim to large areas of the world and have begun abducting innocent citizens to use in their dark rituals.
Everyone's lives are at risk, including your own.
In Season 2, players are going to uncover a plot led by a new ancient vampire named Lord Zir, who's awoken recently.
Lord Zir is a remnant of a lost age. Before there were humans in Sanctuary, it was inhabited by the firstborn children of Inarius and Lilith, who are known as the Ancients.
But because of Inarius' actions, the Ancients had their powers drawn away from them. But some among them were not strictly subject to a true death.
Zir and his cohort were banished to sleep for an eternity in the City of the Ancients, but due to the events of Diablo 4, the city began to awake, with dire consequences for the humans living on the surface above.
During the events of Season 2, the player is going to contract a vampiric curse, but they're not under Lord Zir's control, which gives them a unique opportunity to strike back against the cult and stop Lord Zir's plans.
We'll encounter a variety of new characters this season, including a band of vampire hunters, one with a particularly shadowy past.
Seek out Zir's army. Kill as many as you can.
Eris is a professional vampire hunter. She's crossed and recrossed the wilds of Sanctuary, putting an end to the undead since long before the events of Diablo 4.
I need to go off to the magistrate and you're gonna have to come along.
Eris is played by actor Gemma Chan. It's exciting to see more film and television actors lending their talents to the video game world. Gemma brings a wealth of experience to the table from a wide variety of roles. She was a great choice to breathe life into this character of a world-weary but determined vampire hunter with a lot of emotional complexity.
That's a bite mark.
You're changing, aren't you? No, from the depth of that wound, you should have already. She is strong. She's compassionate towards others, but she's also witnessed a lot of horror in her life, so she's pretty emotionally guarded and stubborn and fixed in her worldview.
Oh, you're going to change. I'm sorry, but whatever's preventing your cravings won't last forever. It never does.
She realizes that the player character has these vampire traits, which makes him a useful tool, but potentially disposable one.
This is madness. Perhaps that's what it takes.
Jetzt kommt's.
One of the core seasonal mechanics for this season
Aufpassen.
are vampiric powers. Vampiric powers can be acquired by defeating blood seekers and minions of Lord Zir in order to acquire potent blood, which allows you to unlock or upgrade vampiric powers.
When you collect all of these various powers, they have costs, which are going to be detailed as part of the pack system. So armor pieces that you collect during the course of the season are going to have these packs associated with them.
There are 3 types of packs, and you can use the boons they provide in order to fuel the blood seals for various vampiric powers. You can combine the power of different blood seals in the Sanguine Circle, so long as you have the appropriate combination of packs in order to power them.
Das schaut ja gar nicht
One thing
schlecht
we've
aus.
really tried hard to do is to provide powers that enhance every build so that there's no one right way to play when pursuing that vampire fantasy.
There's one in particular that I like where as the player dashes, they turn to a cloud of bats, and they'll curse creatures they pass through along the way. As you kill those creatures, you're going to actually steal their souls. When you use certain abilities on your character, all of those souls are unleashed, dealing devastating damage to nearby creatures.
There's also an ability called Rising Moon, where you can stack basic skills, and after you reach a maximum number of stacks, you go into a vampiric blood rage. If you can't get enough of bats, there's even a vampire power that allows you to summon a bat companion. They'll take a bite out of your enemies and have a chance to stun them.
Lord Zir's army is pushing across Sanctuary in an event called the Blood Harvest, which will always be active somewhere on the map, but will change locations in a
Höllenflut, nur
cyclical
anders.
Blood
way.
Harvests are large-scale open-world events where vampires have overwhelmed an area in the hopes of enslaving the populace, harvesting their blood, and siring more vampires.
Players will venture into these areas to rescue prisoners, stop sinister rituals, and hunt for high-value enemies. Of course, they'll be rewarded for their efforts with a variety of new items, as well as the potent blood that fuels their vampiric powers.
Endgame
In Season 2,
bosses.
the Season of Blood, we're going to be adding 5 new returning endgame bosses for players to engage with once they get into World Tiers 3 and 4. Players will be able to earn the materials to summon these bosses by completing Whispers and by completing Helltide events.
We have some new enemies with powerful elemental attacks, giving players more reason to seek out and equip gear that enhances their resistances.
What sets these new in-game bosses apart is that they offer a new way to farm uniques. So if there's a build-defining unique you're after, you'll be able to target farm specific bosses.
And our most challenging boss that we're going to be adding as part of Season 2 is also going to have an opportunity to drop extremely rare unique items that players have been hunting for. We're also going to be adding some quality of life updates in Season 2. The first of which is we're going to be taking our gem system and making it so when gems drop for the player, you're actually collecting materials. They're going to be stored differently. They're not going to go into your inventory the same way, to help alleviate some of the concerns about inventory space that players have talked about before.
As long as you finish the prologue, you can now choose to skip the rest of the campaign and dive straight into creating a seasonal character. If you previously unlocked a mount in Diablo 4, it will be immediately available to use when you begin your journey through the Season of Blood. And we've made it so that Renown rewards persist through seasons, so that the reward is now account bound.
As we do with every new season, we'll be adding a new season journey and a new battle pass filled with new, like vampiric-themed cosmetics to collect, and we'll also be adding some new town portal cosmetics, both in the free and paid versions of our battle pass in Season 2. We'll also be making a number of other changes to the game, updating unique powers and items, reviewing legendary aspects for different classes. We're going to be updating stats like our resistance values across the game, and a number of other balance tweaks to make sure the game is as fun as possible for players.
One of the most exciting things for me about working on Seasons is that Sanctuary is a big place and there's a lot going on. The primevals and the angelic forces are still very much in play, but I think players are going to enjoy seeing some more human-scale dramas play out.
Diablo 4's second season will be our largest content update yet, but we're only getting started. Along with providing new quest lines, powers, and events each season, we'll continue to improve upon established systems by listening to player feedback to make your adventure in Sanctuary the best it can be.
We're incredibly excited for you to explore more corners of Sanctuary, so come join us in the hunt.
Und es beginnt.
Hey guys, how's it going? Long time no see. Welcome to another developer update live stream for Diablo 4. My name is Adam Fletcher. I'm the community director here for Diablo. I'm joined by our wonderful panel here. Some familiar faces, one new face. Feel free to introduce yourselves, you guys.
Thanks. I'm Joe Shelley, game director for Diablo 4.
I'm Antonio Watson, associate dungeon designer for Diablo 4.
And I'm Joe Pipora. I'm the associate game director for Diablo 4's live service.
And I know you guys actually just saw an early look at Season 2, Season of Blood, with that video.
Wir kriegen sicher gleich noch eine genauere Einführung dazu, was die meinten. Die Season mit dem Blatt und den separaten Skilltree, der da gezeigt wurde, fand ich, sah jetzt wesentlich besser aus, als man es erwarten hätte können. Ich meine, Battle Pass und so weiter, da brauchen wir nicht drüber reden. Aber ich hoffe mal, die haben noch ein paar Screenshots dabei, damit man einfach sieht, was passiert.
If you live in the US. So if you do hear a weird noise or something, we've tried throwing everyone's phones out the room, but it still might happen. So it's a good time check though, which it lets me know that it's 11:20, which is really funny. But we do have a lot to talk.
11:20 Pacific time.
Yes, Pacific time, 11:20 Pacific. Sorry, we live in California. And so that is the time that we kind of base it. So based off your time zone, that is in 17 minutes, everyone. But I did want to give that heads up to everyone that if you hear a weird noise, or if you hear a weird noise at home, that's what it is. It's a test. If you live in the US. If you live in the US, that is. But we do have a lot to talk about here. We do want to talk about Season 2, of course, with Season of Blood. And go through all the gameplay mechanics, a little bit about the story.
Es gibt eine Agenda. Was ist denn jetzt los?
In this season, since we're now coming really close to Season of Blood, which is coming out on October 17th. And of course, Season of the Malignant will also be ending on October 17th, so it'll be a season transition for players between both seasons. And then we have a bunch of gameplay updates and quality of life updates to actually go through a ton. Like this, we expect this actual developer update live stream to go for about 2 hours. Because we do need to go through a ton of items with everyone. And then we have some news and announcements to make regarding Diablo 4 towards the end. And of course, we have our Q&A, which we'll be taking questions from Twitch chat. And then I know we actually have some questions from the forums, because we had started a forum thread earlier this week, or late last week, regarding the developer update live stream. So I do know that we do want to kick it off with a little bit about Season 2.
Yeah.
So, want to jump straight into it?
Let's dive in. So, I know that we just watched the video together where we talked about the Season of Blood, but in Season 2, the players are going to be confronting a new villain who's begun to surface throughout Sanctuary. A character named Lord Zir, this ancient vampire who's awoken recently and begun to gather all of these vampiric cultists and other followers to his banner in effort to kind of overtake Sanctuary and achieve his own aims across the world. Now, while the player is progressing through the season, they're going to meet a new character named Eris, who I think we have. So you're going to meet Eris during the course of the season. Eris is a vampire hunter who's been trying to thwart Lord Zir for the past the past few weeks and months. Trying to hunt them down and try to eliminate them entirely. She's not having great luck sort of investigating the cult. She needs more help. The player is going to kind of enter the picture, but as part of the story, as the player is progressing through the season,
good enough.
here, but the player is going to contract vampirism. But due to the strange nature of the interaction with the Lilith's blood in the player character, they're going to be able to resist some of the effects of Lord Zir's influence, and instead gain all of those same powers without those detriments that are holding back other creatures, which can be really, really cool. But Eris is going to be fairly nervous about this, as she's only ever seen anyone who ends up actually contracting vampirism this way end up following and serving Lord Zir in the end, regardless of their intentions overall, which we dig more into a little bit later on with enemies and such. But this represents this interesting new character that you'll be able to work with as you're kind of following the quest line of the season.
Ich dachte mir, wir sehen ein paar Screenshots.
Through these things, you'll be kind of going across all of the world. And I know, Antonio, we talked about how, we had talked before about how there are a number of dungeons we added with the season, right. And you kind of go into some of those part of the quest line.
Yeah, so we have new dungeons that are part of the quest line. You can explore crypts.
Ein schnelles Plus, wenn das sehr verdächtig mit Season 1 vorkommt. In Season 1 hatte auch die Tunnels als neue Dungeon.
And in addition to that, throughout the story, you will be revisiting some old places that are a bit different now that Zir's minions have come and taken over.
Ich meine, wenn es Tunnel voller Vampire gibt, bin ich dabei. Da gehst rein.
Dungeon stuff here. Yep. So the new dungeons in the quest line are pretty cool, particularly that finale that you called out, like when you're going to sort of get a chance to, once you've tracked down Lord Zir with Eris and you get a chance to really confront him in his lair, those are some pretty epic moments that we don't want to actually show on stream just now.
Ob die glauben, dass wir nicht wissen, dass sie die alten Dungeons reskinnen und die wiederverwenden und so ein Labyrinth und dann voller Ding? Aber das sieht nice aus.
Allies, they kind of are going to meet. They're going to learn more about.
Mir ist das egal, also ob das ein Labyrinth ist, ein gerader Tunnel oder sonstiges. Die Mobdichte und der Loot muss stimmen. Bin ich dabei.
That's kind of like the high level of what's happening in the world. Basically, Lord Zir and his army of vampiric cultists are trying to take everything over, and that manifests in a bunch of different ways throughout the season. But I think the first thing I really want to talk about, or the next thing I want to talk about, are the mechanics, like what you're going to be doing during the season to kind of gain power and such. So we talk about the fantasy of the season is that the player is basically becoming part vampire during the course of the season of Blood. And part of that comes down to making sure that we have cool vampiric powers for players to collect and use. So what we see here is our vampiric power user interface. It's the way players are going to be able to collect a lot of powers as they're progressing through the season, and then slot them into the circular UI above. So throughout the season, players are going to be able to acquire up to 22 vampiric powers as they play. And these are designed such that they are, unlike in Season 1 where with Wellington Hearts, we had a lot of very class-specific hearts baked in. We tried to make sure that the vampiric powers that players collect in Season 2 are all class-agnostic in nature, so that there's just more combinations.
Wie war das mit den Herzen? Wie viele Herzen hatten wir? 22 Herzen, wobei die Herzen alles Mögliche machten.
They come with a few different varieties in terms of the level of power of them, and each of them have a pact cost. Well, I will talk about a little bit more in just a moment. But you see these pact costs listed at the bottom. Players need to acquire a certain armor pieces that have these packs associated with them in order to fuel these. Again, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a minute. Why don't we actually see if we take a look at maybe a couple of these powers themselves real fast. Yeah, so here's one. So players are going to have a vampiric power they get as they're progressing through the season, where their evade allows them to turn to like a cloud of bats, and it also makes them unstoppable for a few seconds after they use it at the same time. And it's a way for the player to deliver a new effect that you can get throughout the season, which is called Vampiric Curse. So when you see that red effect above a lot of the creatures that the player is fighting, they're under the effects of Vampiric Curse. And if you kill them while that effect is active on those creatures, you get to steal their souls and bind them to you for a short period of time, up to 8 of them at a time. And then, when you choose to use a defensive ability on your character, you unleash all of these souls. As you can see here, these missiles, like these spirit missiles.
Mich jetzt echt interessiert, mit welchem Level das hier gespielt wird. Ich sehe aber keine Levels, weil somit, das war das Problem eben beim 1er, dass man die Levels nicht hatte. Das war ja alles noch im Levelpartner.
To come across as you're playing. There's other cool things you'll get, like there's abilities for based on other companion skill uses and other things where you can we have this where the bats will come down and attack your enemies. And then many other powers. We talked about there was an overpower power we showed before. There's another one here that is more focused on channeling skills, Yeah, here it is. So when you start using channeling skills, you'll be able to drop this pool of blood around you, which gives you some extra protection. It also enhances all the damage that you deal while you're nearby. So this is going to be able to fire when you're using
Das ist ganz cool.
channeling skill and enhance
Das ist echt
those
ganz
channeling
cool.
skills.
Kannst mal Mage
This gives you a
spielen.
bit more positional gameplay to be thinking about when you're playing into this build. So pretty fun ways for you to kind of maximize and get extra damage rather from a channeling build for a class.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's cool about the vampiric, that I like about the vampiric curse is that there are a few different ways, a few different things that can trigger it, and a few different ways to key off it. And so a lot of these vampiric powers have interactions with that curse. It kind of forms a unifying thread in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. We think it's a really cool extra ability for players to play with, and being able to trigger it in different ways is very fun, we think. So the next thing I want to talk about was actually how you're able to fuel your vampiric powers, those packs I talked about before. So if you look here in the inventory screen, you'll see that that all of the armor pieces that players are collecting are going to have a set number of packs associated with them. So you see here on the items themselves, like they all have these small symbols off on the left-hand side, or underneath them, or rather. And these represent the various packs that players can collect of the 3 different types to fuel all the vampiric powers they can collect. Because ultimately, you want to gather all your vampiric powers, you want to level them all up to level 3 to make them as strong as you can get them, and then you want to make sure that you can fuel all of those vampiric powers so you can have all 5 slotted that you really care about. And to do that, you need
Für mich sieht das auch ein bisschen wie neueres Inventar aus, ne? Hier oben beim Umschaltsymbolen und so, sieht ein bisschen neuer aus.
just on armor pieces. But and I should say, every armor piece that drops during the course of the Season of Blood will
Reden jetzt 2 Stunden und keiner erwähnt, dass sie das Inventar geändert haben.
for items that are going to have. It's not rare in that way. And as the player progresses through the season, they're going to also gain these new items they're able to collect from completing various content types. We'll talk a little bit more about in a minute.
Chest,
But
Armor, Gloves, Bands.
these allow players to basically remove packs from items. They allow them to eject new packs into items up to the pack limit, which is based upon the tier of content the player is playing in. So normal items have 3, and then sacred have 4, and then on to 5 as you go into ancestral. So as you're progressing through, you can get more of these packs, and you have a lot more control over your ultimate pack loadout on your items as you collect more and more of these consumables that you can use to kind of modify and update your items. So we're really excited about
Aber ich sehe
this.
das jetzt richtig, dass ich maximal auf der linken Seite pro Item 3 Packs drauf haben kann, außer auf der Waffe, ne? Und dann klicke ich drauf und dann wende ich das an. Ja, okay.
So there's lots of ways to kind of grab these.
Ich meine, im Endeffekt, die Herzen haben genau gleich funktioniert. Die Herzen hatten 3 unterschiedliche Farben, um das hier ein bisschen zu limitieren. Und jetzt hast du halt 3 unterschiedliche Symbole, die du anwenden kannst.
Ein
bisschen eine weitere Entwicklung.
The other sections of when we're talking about season 2, but there's also a lot of new enemies and things we're adding as part of season 2 as well.
Neue Gegner.
So as part of season 2, we actually added a bunch of new monsters. Lord Zier has a ton of different minions that will be all throughout the continent. First, we have here our shadow vampires. These guys are not your typical flavor of vampires. They have a bunch of really cool new attacks. You'll see them all over the overworld. You'll see them in a variety of dungeons.
Jetzt sieht auch gut aus.
Paired with these guys, we also have our blood skeletons. These guys are kind of similar to our regular skeletons, but they also come with new attacks that allow you to have
die Fledermaus ist am
counterplay
coolsten.
and techniques in order to defeat them and get around them. So be prepared for that.
Yeah, they have a little bit more area denial baked into their
Right,
kits, right?
right.
As you're fighting some of the blood skeletons.
Yeah, you definitely want to watch where you step, when you're engaging with these guys.
Yeah, and the vampires have these cool things where they occasionally drop these giant heart-like lumps on the ground, and sometimes they'll be able to trigger
Die
shield.
wichtigste Frage ist, kann man die Fledermaus als Pet bekommen? Das ist die einzig richtige, wichtige Frage hier.
Frequently to make sure that you're knocking these things out to prevent those shields from being applied. So yeah, there's some cool things to react to as part of this. But of course, that's not even the only creature, right? Because there's the man himself, right?
Yeah. So we also have Lord Zier. Here he is on his throne.
Brooding.
Yes. He is the mastermind. You will be facing off with him throughout the season and during the end of the season. He is our big bad evil guy, and coming along with him are his lieutenants, the Bloodseekers.
Oh yeah, the Bloodseekers. So Bloodseekers are really cool. So Bloodseekers are a new idea in season 2, and the concept here is that as the player has been is sort of protected a little bit by Lilith's blood in this way, that they're not able to be controlled by Lord Zier after they contract vampirism under his in his forces. There are other heroes who've gone out there that don't have that same level of protection. Who've gone out there trying to stop Lord Zir, trying to stop the vampiric advances, and they have fallen victim to the blood cults and to Lord Zir's forces that way.
Hat noch wer das Gefühl, dass das verdammt nach Transmoggy aus dem Shop ausschaut? So machet jetzt ein Plus. Sieht aus wie ein Barbar oder hier ein Demon Hunter Transmog-Gear.
So as you're progressing through, you'll be dealing with enemy rogues, you'll be dealing with enemy druids and necromancers as you're playing, and dealing with their specific like spells and kits that we've created for the season for players to interact with. And honestly, finding Bloodseekers is great because these guys are just blood bags. You know, they drop, they have a really, really good chance to drop potent blood. And potent blood is going to be a currency that you're going to be collecting through the season. They'll be able to use to basically upgrade powers that you already have, your vampiric powers, and unlock new ones that are available through the vampiric power UI. So really, whenever you find Bloodseekers, you want to take them out because they are, first, they're pretty fun to fight, they're a little challenging, but they also have the ability to give you big upgrades for your vampiric powers. And they can jump you too, right? So like, we make sure like, you know, Bloodseekers are, you'll find them in the world, particularly like in Blood Harvest. We'll talk about that again. I keep saying we'll talk about things in a minute, but
yeah.
You know, there are lots of chances to get them to fight them in Blood Harvest. But you can also find them in dungeons and stuff too, right?
Yeah, so you can see them in the overworld, but they will also invade you in dungeons. So don't let them catch you slipping. They will be all over, finding you when you least expect it.
Yeah. So you just, as you're passing through a dungeon, you will have a barbarian jump on you, whirlwind, you know, they'll be all
Kommen
trying
die
to slow
wieder,
you down,
Baksha?
right, and causing problems. Yeah, very, very fun. So yeah, a lot of new enemy types as part of the new season.
Hatte ich das jetzt richtig mitgenommen? Die Kommandeure kommen zufällig und joinen den Kampf. Also im Prinzip Butcher 1-0.
And Blood Harvest is really the way that we're representing that. You know, starting right at level 1, you'll find that Lord Zir's minions have taken over broad swaths
Helltide in grün.
in Sanctuary. And it's going to be filled with like his minions out there trying to like drain the blood from a variety of different people. There's that
emergency alert.
There's that emergency alert we talked about.
There we go.
Right.
Now
Okay.
everyone gets to experience this together.
And my phone as well.
So while these events are active, or rather these activities are active, you'll find Lord Zir's armies like marching across Sanctuary, taking people hostage, taking them prisoner, draining them of blood, and just causing general havoc in these areas where there's like new propping and there's new creatures. There's lots of things to do as you're kind of going through this.
Pizza-Alarm.
So what's the difference between Blood Harvest and Helltide?
Sure, that's a great question, Antonio. So obviously there's some similarities to the way that things are working in Helltide. The difference here is that, first of all, it's available right away at level 1, you know, as you're progressing. But also, while these events are active, there's always a Blood Harvest active across Sanctuary at any given time. Like, when a Blood Harvest ends in one location somewhere in Sanctuary, a new one's going to pop up as Lord Zir's forces now move to a new location. And one of the cool things about Blood Harvest that's a little bit different than things like Helltide is that as you're kind of going through and playing, you're going to be earning a couple of new materials that you don't get elsewhere. And that is, you're going to be able to earn Bloodlures, which Bloodlures that you'll be able to use to basically like bait Bloodseekers to come to you to be able to fight packs of them as time goes on. And you're also going to be earning these vampiric keys you can use to open like prisoners like cuffs, to be able to open vampiric caches and other things out in the overworld. And one of the cool things about this is that these materials that you're collecting, these currencies that you need to kind of like do some of these activities, these don't disappear at the end of a Blood Harvest. So as you collect them, they stay with you from that point forward. So there's not limited progress in that way. Yeah, here's an example of a player going and using Bloodlures to summon a few of the Bloodseekers in combat. So yeah, and then whirlwinding accordingly. But
Das heißt also, das ist nicht wie Helltide, weil es ist dauerhaft verfügbar. Und man kriegt neue Ressourcen drin und man wird das machen müssen.
Hunter's Acclaim. And as you do things in the Blood Harvest area, as you're killing Bloodseekers, as you are freeing prisoners, as you're completing new Blood Harvest-themed whispers that are also going to be active in those areas, you're going to be earning Hunter's Acclaim that will allow you to basically go and earn a number of other rewards. Some of the vampiric powers that you want to unlock for your character are available through the system. A few of them, and then there's lots of like potent blood you can get from the system, and then also gear as well as you're progressing through. So there's a bunch of different stuff in here for players to do. It's we're really excited to see how they level up in this experience.
And the blood harvest occurs in addition to Helltide, right? Once you progress up into the higher world tiers, you'll still be seeing Helltides.
That's absolutely right. You'll still see Helltides as well, but you'll also see higher level blood harvest as you get into like.
Ist Blood Harvest und Helltide, kann das zusammenfallen? Das wäre ja mega.
But Season 2 also has some other components to it
True.
that actually are beyond even just like seasonal stuff. Like, and I know people may have seen in the video the discussion that we quickly brought up like before the stream actually started, which was about the new bosses that are being added in. Can you guys kind of walk through like what the new endgame boss system is going to be for players that do want to kind of experience that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right that first and foremost, this is content we're adding to the Eternal Realm as well as the Seasonal Realm from this point forward. Yes. We're continuing to add more activities like this as time goes on. But there's actually, I think I have a handy dandy chart, a very designery chart to help players understand kind of what we're talking about here. So what you see here is the way that we kind of look at the content progression.
Ist mit Whispers der Baum gemeint? Der Baum, der keine Uniques droppt?
So it's like in Season 1, right?
Yeah, in pre-season and Season 1. Yeah. So yeah, you can think of it in that way. Our 1 to 50 experience, obviously you're leveling up initially, maybe you're going through the campaign for the first time, you're progressing through, eventually you get out of World Tiers 1, 2, and get into World Tier 3 after you finish the capstone. Here you get to do, you have higher level whispers to do, you get exposed to Nightmare Dungeons for the first time, you get exposed to Helltide for the first time, World Boss get a little bit tougher, Legion events get a little bit tougher, and we're making some changes there as well. And then eventually you get into World Tier 4, now you're getting your ancestral items, and you continue to move on through Nightmare Dungeons, and you continue on through Helltide until eventually you go and you confront Echo of Lilith, potentially, if that's one of your goals for yourself, and you try to take her out. So that's kind of like what we had in place right at launch. Not even thinking about Season 1 necessarily, but that's like what the end game sort of looks like. It's a lot of Nightmare Dungeons, a lot of Helltide, right? And we've heard a lot of feedback from players, and also from our experiences playing the game, that players are looking for more milestones, they're looking for more goals, they're looking for more like things to farm, ways to make their characters powerful. So there's some big changes we're making as part of the Season of Blood.
Here, Echos.
So now when the player gets into World Tier 3, there's 2 new bosses for them, or 1 returning boss for them to go and engage with. The first is Echo of Varshan, our good boy Varshan that everybody loves, is going to be back in Season 2 for players to be able to hunt down in order to kill, to get various craft materials they can use to summon up.
Ist Varshan der Bengel aus der ersten Season, den wir in den Tunneln einfach immer überfahren haben? Ist das der gleiche Boss?
As part of the Season of Blood is going to have their own distinct loot list associated with them.
Wieso ist der im Endgame gelistet?
Cosmetic rewards as well.
Ist das Echo? Okay.
So that's a reason why you're going to want to go hunt each of these down. Now on this board here, you can see that I kind of like connect the dots in terms of where these things come from. So if you want to go hunt Varshan, you need to go complete Whispers. There's chances for you to find like malignant creatures as you're completing Whispers in the overworld. They have rare chances to occur. And you'll also be able to get these new malignant body parts you need from completing Whisper bounty turn-ins. So when you go and you get your cash reward at the end of a Whisper run, there's a chance for you to have one of the pieces that you need to summon Varshan, reconstitute him. Because in the Season of Blood, there are new layers that have been added around the world. And the lair for Varshan is in a kind of a corrupted hollow, malignant hollow beneath the Tree of Whispers. So right there's an entrance down in where you're able to fight some awesome malignant creatures. No malignant hearts dropping, but malignant creatures.
Ich weiß nicht, ob ich das jetzt für mich falsch interpretiere, aber werde ich genötigt, Bounties zu machen, um die Chance zu haben, Echo of Varshan zu kriegen und dann Duriel zu machen? Sehe ich das jetzt falsch oder gibt es da eine gewisse Nötigung, dass man in der Open World rumlaufen muss, um das zu machen?
The new arc for some of these characters in just a moment. But this is a new, very lightning-themed boss that players will be able to go and engage with as they complete Helltide content. They will learn Infernal Steel from opening various caches and use this as a way, as part of a new layer, to go and summon the Galvanic Saint and deal with his lightning-themed attacks. And that's actually something that might be worth pointing out. While we're not talking about the elemental resistance changes until next week when Adam comes back with Charles and they talk about all the class changes and itemization updates that are happening as part of the season. It's worth pointing out that several of the bosses in this chain have they are very elementally themed in terms of their attacks. So you should be looking for like lightning resist explicitly if you're trying to farm Grigwar, and you'll be looking for cold resist to find it from the Beast of Ice later. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. So that's World Tier 3. This is a way for you to get some of those build-defining uniques you might need to kind of progress to the Sacred Tier, give you those extra rewards as you go. So now we're talking about World Tier 4 for a second. So you've got into World Tier 4. Echo Varshan is now still available for you to fight in World Tier 4, where he drops ancestral versions of those same unique items. And the Galvanic Saint is also available for players to fight to get ancestral versions of those unique items. So those are still there. Additionally, when you kill Varshan and when you kill the Galvanic Saint in World Tier 4, they drop summoning components that you need in order to summon Duriel, King of Maggots, who is a new level 100 boss that we're adding as part of the seasonal experience.
And Duriel is level 100.
Unique items, as well as a low chance to drop uber unique items.
So what does that mean, like, in terms, when you say uber uniques, a lot of people go like, oh, low chance, there's already a low chance. So what does that mean for a player for uber uniques now with this new system?
That's a great question. You will absolutely know people that have uber uniques after this goes live, and there's a way for you to farm them specifically from going after Duriel, right? It is still not every time you kill Duriel, you're gonna get an uber unique item. They're still very rare relative to other item types. But it's not like it was in the past. Like, you're going to see people in your clan that have uber uniques. You're going to know people that have uber uniques. You have a way to hunt for these, right? In this world. So that's a really, really big push as part of the new seasonal program. Now, there are the two other bosses that I didn't talk about too much. The first is the Beast in Ice. So the Beast in Ice is a new boss that you can go and summon after you start completing Nightmare Dungeons higher than Tier 30. So Tier 31 plus Nightmare Dungeons, 85-ish monsters and so on from there. As you fight and complete these Nightmare Dungeons, there's chances for the components that you need to drop at the end of the Nightmare Dungeon you'll be able to use to make a new special Nightmare Dungeon key that explicitly brings you to the Beast in Ice's lair. So that is the way that you're able to summon forth the Beast in Ice and fight them in combat to get their special loot. And they've got some really, really potent items as well. And then lastly, for the new boss we're adding with the season, is we talked about Lord Zir already. While you will be able to confront like a story version of Lord Zir as you go through the quest line in World Tiers 1 and 2, there is a much more difficult, challenging version of Lord Zir that you'll fight in World Tier 4 once you're ready for that content. And you'll be able to access and summon forth Lord Zir this way as you kill world bosses in Season 4 and as you kill, in Season 2 rather, Season 4. As you kill world bosses, yeah, I know, really am. As you kill world bosses in World Tier 4.
Ich muss mal ganz kurz mich jetzt hier einbauen. Ne? Wir schauen ja hier für die Qualität und meine Experience. Also ich verstehe hier alles, nur was ich nicht verstehe ist, warum das Endgame mit 71 angesetzt wird, wenn du ja schon mit 60 die Ahnengegenstände tragen kannst und auch schon mit Level 60 dann im World Tier 4 bist und warum World Bosse und Legion Events als Endgame-Content angelistet werden, wenn du von denen weder Drops kriegst und die in 90 Sekunden sterben.
Yeah, it's super gross, very fun.
Also jetzt hier das mit den neuen Boss-Systemen, das finde ich sehr cool. Auch das gezielte Farmen von Uniques und wenn die auch knüppelhart sind, finde ich auch sehr gut. Die Frage ist halt, welche Spawn-Wahrscheinlichkeit die haben, beziehungsweise wenn die schon sagen, dass du da außen rumlaufen musst und bei sich was alles farmen, dann wird es spannend, ne?
These bosses. There's a couple advantages. First, if you've got friends, you can try to farm these components up together and use that as a way to more quickly access these fights and get more chances and opportunities to get some loot off these bosses that you're looking for. But you can also trade these materials between players as well. So if you've got half the things you might need to summon Varshan, but you don't have the other half, you can go on trade chat and try to find the remaining components, spend the gold necessary to maybe exchange for those things, and then go more quickly summon the bosses that you need. And also, as you collect these materials, you realize you may have overfarmed the materials that you need to summon, and you got the items you're really looking for.
Hat er gerade Trade Chat gesagt?
Yeah, you have a chance to go and take those and maybe sell those off, to make a tidy profit for yourself, so you can have an easier time enchanting items and other things as you go.
Exactly. Make friends.
Yeah, make friends for sure. Yeah.
And you said this before, but all 5 of these bosses have unique loot tables that have specific uniques on them that you can target.
That's right. So if you're looking for a particular unique item in the game, and we've added a lot of unique items in Season 2 as well that also can all appear on these bosses, you will know the sorts of bosses you're looking for in order to farm for those items. Right, so if you're looking for something, there is a boss that is going to drop it. You know what you need to go target farm and try to get those items.
Yeah, and what we're seeing here is just like some of the
Kann ich mal ein Plus von jedem im Chat haben, wer gezieltes Item-Farming gut findet? Also, dass ihr jetzt wisst, okay, du möchtest jetzt die Krone, das Mount, dafür musst du den Boss haben, finden wir das gut?
But then, like Joe and Joe have mentioned, you can find unique items off of them. And Uber Duriel has the opportunity of dropping Uber uniques. And yes, you will find people and know people that and may find yourself an actual Uber uniques with this season and going forward, because again, this is in Eternal Realm and this is in every season going forward, and we'll be adding more to it.
That's right.
And I know a lot of people have been asking about like unique items and.
Finde ich gut. Ganz ehrlich, wenn das Carry On, also wenn das übernommen wird für alle zukünftigen Season und Off-Season, dann kannst du dir immer einen Farmweg zurechtmachen, um spezielle Items zu farmen. Die Frage liegt halt wirklich in der Spawnrate der einzelnen Bosse und wie realistisch das ist.
Changes.
Ist halt Diablo 2, ne?
Item updates. In fact, nearly every unique item is getting some sort of update in Diablo 4, and we're actually going to be talking more about that on the 10th. So these unique items are obviously going to be, big things to actually kind of hunt for players when they are fighting these specific bosses. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about today. We'll have more to talk about on the 10th, and of course we're also going to be talking about resistances more on the 10th with Adam Jackson, and some of the damage bucket changes. Like I know we have like crit, vulnerable, and overpower damage that's also getting kind of adjusted and tuned, kind of what we mentioned in prior streams. So that will all be happening on the 10th. But
10 is kind of
we got to hear a little bit about the bosses here. Now we do want to talk about some of the gameplay updates and some changes that are coming to Diablo 4, which is a huge list that we actually do have. So it's going to take us be prepared. We got a lot of slides and a lot to discuss here, but we do want to kind of jump right into them so we can kind of get through all of them for sure. And a lot of this, and I do want to like preface, a lot of this is based off of things we've heard within the community feedback, and also just changes that we most definitely wanted to make to the.
Ich habe Hardcore gespielt, das ist eine mega gute Anpassung, dass die Rolle, die dich wegboardet, bei einem Disconnect instant auslöst. Das ist für Hardcore ist das 10 von 10, vor allem bei den Diablo-Server.
Talk about Scroll Escape here. I just wanted to mention we're seeing some of the images of some of the mount and some of those item art.
Oh yeah.
Those are also new cosmetics that are exclusive to you can get from farming.
That's correct.
Also für jeden, der hier aus Deutschland zuschaut, die Änderung ist nur für euch. Für die constant disconnecten in Diablo wegen Internet, das ist nur für euch gemacht.
Persist beyond Season 2.
That's correct, yeah. These bosses aren't going to go away at the end of the season. We want to add more things for players to do once they get into these World Tier 3 and 4 content tiers. There's more updates we want to make to existing content types. We'll talk about some of those things today.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more planned. This is sort of like the first step in like...
Wieso lacht ihr? Das stimmt doch.
As they get into World Tier 4, especially as they're thinking about level 100, especially, making sure there's more fun things for players to do and engage in.
More for an endgame.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Scrolls of Escape. It's been a little while coming, but Scrolls of Escape will now be consumed automatically if you disconnect while you're in combat. Because this is a consumable item, we feel pretty good about the case where people are, disconnecting on purpose. You're still going to consume that item, so we feel pretty good about this change. And it always sucks to die to a disconnect in hardcore. Yeah.
Never fun.
Incenses, which are the party-wide version of elixirs, of course, will now grant a bonus to experience, and they will persist through death. So it'll be more useful.
Irrelevant.
Now this is a big one. We have a bunch of different experience changes that we're going to go over here. You're going to see a few different references to different experience changes. One of the things, if you're playing Season 1, you'll notice that we did make some adjustments to experience in Season 1 as well. That's sort of, all this is sort of coming together with some changes to how experience is calculated in terms of which things are multiplicative. So the way this will work is, in general, you've got different kinds of experience bonuses. So you've got maybe a bonus.
Weil 0 mal irgendwas immer noch 0 ist.
Example, you've got other experience bonuses maybe from seasonal blessings. These are going to add together in a bucket and then be multiplicative with your World Tier bonus. This means that these experience bonuses will be much more impactful in Season 2 than they were in Season 1. In fact, cumulatively, as I said, there are a number of different experience bonuses here. And cumulatively, your time, compared to Season 1,
Vielleicht
your
mal
time
ganz
to get to level 100 is going to be 40% faster.
Yep, about 40%.
Also man ist 40% schneller auf Level 100 als in der ersten Season, weil sie den XP-Bonus, den man bekommt, multiplikativ machen. Und 40% schneller.
Season 2 is really about, we just talked about all of the boss changes that add more content to do as you're leveling up.
Ich glaube, das war keine gute Idee. Oder ich glaube, das ist keine gute Idee.
Goal that many players set for themselves, and it should be an achievable goal. And so in Season 1, we saw that there were some players who were getting frustrated.
Los, gib mir den Chat, gib mir den Chat.
25, and you're like, I want there to be more things to do, and this is like, just feels like it kind of slows down. And we really wanted to smooth that over and make the process of reaching that goal and getting to the end of the season journey feel like an achievable goal for all our players who invest time in the season. And of course, along the way, you're going to be having a lot more cool stuff to do with all of the boss ladder stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, these are good changes. Very excited about this.
So, as I said, we'll talk more about other changes to experience as we go through this. But moving on for the moment, when you skip the campaign to jump into the world, as many players do at the start of a season, you're going to have more waypoints that start unlocked compared to previous seasons. That means you don't have to do quite as much running to.
Das finde ich auch gut. Das ist alles, ich bin jetzt ein bisschen verwirrt und man merkt es mir auch an, das sind alle Sachen, die die Diablo-Season extrem beschleunigen. 40% schneller leveln, mehr Waypoints, weniger laufen, ey, das ist in der Woche gelutscht.
Some other changes. There's kind of a suite of changes. You know, I was just talking about a number of changes to experience. There's also a suite of changes to sort of town efficiency. And this is the first one we're going to talk about some more in a little bit. This is a big one. I know this is one that's close to Joe's heart in particular. Renown rewards will now persist between seasons. So what this means is that when you create a new character in a season.
Warum nicht alle Waypoints? Weil jede weitere Season 10 Waypoints dazukommen und du somit 4 weitere Season mit Content hast.
Strongholds, you can do all of those content types, but all of the rewards that are associated with Renown will persist. So if you had, and you don't have to, you're not going to have to log in on a different character or anything. Like any reward that you've claimed, if you claimed it in preseason, on Eternal, in Season 1, on any character, you're going to have that reward.
Man muss dazu sagen, also dieses schnelle Leveln und so weiter, das ist alles eine gute Idee, weil es beschleunigt das Game ein bisschen, weil viele regen sich auf, dass Diablo 4 zu langsam ist und du bist auch in dieser Loot-Spirale und Gear-Spirale gut dabei. Das Problem, was hier nicht bedacht wird, ist, ich bin mir zu 99% sicher, wenn die Leute Level 100 erreichen, dass sie das Game danach quitten. Ich glaube nicht, dass du einen Anreiz hast, wenn du jetzt Level 100 hast, dass du dann hergehst und das ganze Endgame machst und irgendwelche Bosse farmst oder über Uniques mit einer Drop Rate von 0,1. 100 ist gleich Deinstall.
Playing the game, and I think Joe mentioned this before, but it's really important. Playing the game and then reading feedback from players. Feedback on social, feedback from videos, everything, and really looking at like what are players asking for? Where are there places where we can make the game more fun? Because, you know, we talked back.
Schaut ihr auch meine Videos?
To continue making the game more fun for players, right? And so this is really sort of the result of that. And,
yeah, absolutely. I think making sure that players have more choices when they are able to log into their seasonal character right away and not feel like they've got this oppressive goal of needing to completely fill out their renown in order to play optimally for the season.
Yeah,
I think is going to be really, really healthy and good for the experience. I'm really excited for players to be able to just be able to carry these things over with their characters. Now, you're not going to need to log in like you did last time when we made changes in the past. Now, like after you've claimed these rewards on a previous character, you're just going to have them on the future characters.
That's right. Yeah, and.
Ja, das Problem ist, also mir ist das schon klar, warum sie das so machen, wie sie es jetzt machen, auch mit der gesamten Beschleunigungssache. Das Problem, was Diablo 4 hat, ist, Diablo 4 startet nicht, wenn du Level 100 bist, sondern es endet, wenn du Level 100 bist, und zwar final.
But overworld monsters will now match your player level in World Tiers 3 and 4. I know that this is in preseason, it worked this way, and we ran into some challenges with the game not feeling like you were getting upgrades that really felt powerful, and players rightly called that out. Like, look, I want to get powerful new items, and then I want to smash monsters.
Yeah,
and
you want to feel more powerful.
That's a really core part of the loop. So this change makes these monsters on par with your level. And this is based on reviewing season 1, but it's coupled with some other changes that make sure that it does feel meaningful and powerful, and you're not just feeling like, oh, I'm just sort of playing catch up.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more later on.
All right.
And of course, at the end of season 1, your season 1 character is going to migrate to the Eternal Realm, and so we've added 2 additional character slots to make sure that you have plenty of space for more characters.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to note is like when characters are migrating from season 1 to Eternal Realm, we actually have all that information that's going to be posted immediately after this live stream. We have a huge blog that will be essentially talking about everything related to season 2, and so all the details about how that actually happens, how that works, will be in that blog. It works very similar to like if you play Diablo 2 Resurrected, you'll know exactly how that works, and it's very similar to that. But all that information will be on a blog afterwards.
Yeah,
so.
we'll go into detail about what happens with your items and how they carry over.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of great info there.
Okay, so next I think we have towns. Yeah, towns and vendors. Yeah. So a couple things we've changed here to make towns a little more efficient, and that's like really a focus of ours as we kind of move forward. First up, the occultist is now set up by the Tree of Whispers. So when you go back and you turn in your whispers, there are additional functions you can perform right there without having to like fly off to Kyokushat or anywhere else to go do other work. So that's nice for the loop.
Ich will zu diesem Baum nicht. Und ich bin nicht der Einzige, der diesen verdammten Bounty-Baum nicht möchte. Verstehst? Wir wollen diesen Baum nicht, um Gottes Willen, ey. Das ist so, wie wenn sie da bei McDonald's zu so einem Menü was dazu schenken, was keiner haben möchte.
A character from 1 to 50, and you just are finding things you want to drop off, or as you are playing in the end game, you're finishing whispers and things nearby, more opportunities to get to a stash. And then, additionally, we've added stashes to near a lot of different vendors in capital cities. I think we have a video for this in just a moment, but we'll get to that in just a second, I think. But yeah, we've added more stashes all over the place. And then, of course, purveyors of curiosities. These lovable rogues, really tuck themselves away in a distant corner of a lot of the capital cities throughout Sanctuary. We're bringing them closer to the waypoints. We're reacclimating them to society, reintroducing them to the world, and just making sure that they're a lot easier to reach, as you can see here.
Das war schon der erste Satz, den Zonder damals sagte, dass diese Sachen näher zusammengehören, weil wenn du anfängst zu farmen, es mehr Zeit in der Stadt kostet, die Sachen zu verkaufen, als andersrum.
You are as you're playing.
The purveyor has become more social.
Yeah, become more willing to integrate with the rest of the people in town. Yeah.
It's like he realized his shady dealings aren't actually going to get punished by anyone, so he just might as well do them out in the open.
Yeah, the law is a rough construct in many ways in Sanctuary. So in this way, that they're back in the good graces.
And I know, like because we've heard from players like, hey, spending time. They spend a lot of time in town. Obviously, like if they're going to be at the blacksmith or at the purveyor, at the occultist or anything, this is now going to just help make that a little bit more efficient. Yeah. Especially if they're going between different areas or different towns, they can now find stashes everywhere, and a lot of it was, thanks to the feedback from players on that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, cool. So I think that's about it for towns and vendors. There's plenty more stuff to talk about.
Yes.
Want to talk about mounts?
Yes, we should talk about mounts. Yeah. This was something that we talked about before. This is something that Mr. Joe Shelley had posted on the platform known as X, formerly known as Twitter.
Did he make a post?
He made a post, not a tweet.
Not a tweet. That's
a post.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of people ask about this ever since that post, and we mentioned that it'd be something that's coming in season 2. So do you want to go through all our changes coming from mounts?
Yeah, let's take a look at them. So the first off, there are a number of changes to mounts, but I want to call out that the one that players and we feel is the most significant here is just that they're going to get stuck less, right? So when you're trying to turn your mount like in a tight corner, or you're trying to navigate.
Was kommt da von mir? Jesse's Mount für Subs, das kommt doch von dir. Was soll denn das jetzt heißen?
Much less frequently come to a dead stop or slow down dramatically.
Das ist nur, damit du mit dem Mount nicht sofort irgendwo dagegen laufst und abgemountet wirst.
Mounts can jump over regular jump.
Was sind Improved Mounts? Die aktuellen Reittiere in Diablo 4 werden so überarbeitet, dass du durch die Gegner ein bisschen durchlaufen kannst und durch Hindernisse einfach drüber springst.
I think some people didn't. In practice, they didn't always. They were a little bit too scared of jumping over traversals. So we fixed that. It's much more smooth now, so a lot less dismounting as you're traveling around the world. We also increased the base movement speed of mounts. This means that traveling on your mount in town.
Das Mount ist jetzt 14% schneller. Das
we
ist
didn't
nice.
increase the top speed of the boost, so the maximum boost speed is still the same, but your base movement speed unboosted is going to be 14% faster. We also made a change, and this is one that players point out. We have
Könnte das auch 15% sein? Warum ist das genau 14?
I think it's like a very cool system for allowing the mount to have analog control with the mouse and keyboard. But the consequence of this is that it was sort of finicky. You really had to have the mouse cursor at the edge of the screen to get full speed. And if you had a little bit farther away, you kind of felt like, well, am I actually at full speed? So you really felt like it has to be at the edge of the screen at all times. Because of course, when you're riding through the world, you want to be going as fast as you can, right? Mm-hmm. And so we made a change here. We didn't remove. Some players have suggested just make it binary. I should be at full speed all the time. But we made a change that makes it. The cursor is much more generous about allowing you to be at full speed.
Wie viele Leute werden jetzt noch in Chat schreiben, dass die 15% nur im Shop gibt? Habe ich jetzt schon 8-mal gelesen, Freunde.
You have to have the cursor close to your mount.
Wir haben hier nicht den Blizzard-Chat.
Still handy for navigating around between tight areas. So big improvement for mouse and keyboard users there.
Yeah, it just makes the mount a little less, a little easier to use in general, right? It's easier to reach that top speed. You don't have to have the mouse as far away and be planning your path at the very edge of the screen constantly. It's just generally not how people play and when they're moving in the game.
Yeah.
It's usually a bit closer to their character when they choose their movement options with the mouse. So yeah, feels really good.
I think between the faster mount and moving the important things closer to the waypoint, that is the 40%.
Oh, that's the 40%.
That is 41%.
Falscher Moment, um jetzt lustig zu sein.
Are massive. So.
This is just additive to it.
But I think it's a great point because as Adam was saying as well, town efficiency is also something that players care a lot about.
Town Efficiency. Also man muss mal fairerweise dazu sagen, eben obwohl dieser Speed Increase jetzt nicht weltbewegend ist, was auch immer, aber mit dem, dass die Städte ein bisschen umstrukturiert werden und du in der Stadt dann wesentlich schneller bist, das wird dann unterm Strich, macht das schon ein bisschen was aus. Also wenn du eine Stunde lang Dungeons farmst und deine Städte-Uptime reduziert wird um 30, 40, 50%, da geht schon was weiter.
It's pretty significant.
Yep.
And of course, this is great because those pesky barricades that would previously cause your mount to stop can be broken through, so you don't need to dismount unless you want to.
Right. Look at this fancy in-slide video. Just added.
Ich finde das auch ziemlich cool, wenn du nicht mehr gezwungen abgemountet wirst, vor allem für alle, die Hardcore spielen, ist das nice, ne? Weil eben, da kannst dann da durchreiten. Das ist schon ganz cool mit dem Mount. Also die Quality Changes, die würde ich jetzt mal nicht vom Tisch schupfen. Eine andere Sache ist, wenn man das Diablo 4 jetzt beschleunigt, dann wird es schwierig, ne?
Oh yeah, these are really big.
So I, as Adam mentioned, I posted about this on social media, and one of the things that we were experimenting with is having the mount cooldown reset after you take a traversal, because of course you get off your mount, you take a traversal, and then there's a cooldown before you can mount again. It just feels sort of arbitrary, why that's slowing down the game for no reason, right? So we tested that in practice, and we found that while it was cool, what was even better is just reducing the base cooldown of the mount across the board. So mount cooldown goes down from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. If you're taking a lot of damage while you're mounted, and you get knocked off your horse, the cooldown for getting back on the horse also halved from 30 seconds to 15. And as I mentioned, the dismount combat skill. Like, this is a really cool skill. We want it to feel like players can use it and feel powerful. So this is actually the cool up on it. When you jump onto your mount, there's a few seconds before you can use it, and 10 seconds felt way too long, so we reduced it to 3.
Yeah, it's much more fun to like just get on your mount, and if you see a pack of creatures that you need for a quest or for a whisper or anything else, be able to just disengage right into them, you know, and start the fight right away, as opposed to having to like wait. You just end up not using it.
I would like make circles around attacks, you know,
if you have like 2 seconds left or something.
So wait, hold on, monsters. I'm going to do this cool ability.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Wait, give me a little bit.
Just wait, it's happening. I promise. Yeah. So.
Yeah, very cinematic, but not as fun.
Awesome. So I know now.
Whoa.
Wow. Okay, we have production behind the scenes, by the way, guys.
Yeah, honestly,
they're just smiling back there as they make these like crazy swipes between transitions. But we are now going to talk about some changes.
Ist immer noch 3.5, ja.
Dungeons.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So we, Antonio, I know, can kind of take us through all our changes here.
Yep. Finally, this is what I'm here for.
This is the moment.
This is what I work on. So, yeah, we have tons of changes for Nightmare Dungeons coming this season. The very first big change.
Ich muss sagen, das habe ich mich auch immer gefragt, warum man vor den Dungeon teleportiert wird und nicht rein.
The dungeon instead of to the dungeon entrance. This will cut down on having the double load screens when you just want to go and play
These transitions.
More, like grind more Nightmare Dungeons and get your Paragon points up. I think this is a pretty, this will be a pretty popular change. I think this is something that people have wanted for a while, ever since we first implemented teleporting to Nightmare Dungeons.
Der Shit-Aspekt ist immer noch drinnen.
I think it's going to be a huge boon for me. So I'm supportive.
Da muss ich mir jetzt leider die Frage stellen, warum war das anders?
What is our stream software thing that we use? vMix. People are claiming we're doing this in PowerPoint. It's actually through vMix. So credit to them. There you go. We could have gone the easy way out and done PowerPoint, but no. All right, sorry for interrupting. There you go.
Moving on, back to Nightmare Dungeons. So our dungeon events have more monster density now. And also, more importantly, in higher world tiers, your NPCs will no longer get one shot. So they will not be completely useless, or the events won't be hopeless when you're trying to defend.
Das ist eine gute Änderung. Frage war, warum die gestorben sind, aber es ist eine gute Änderung.
Increasing the perceived efficiency of dungeon events across the board.
Right.
It's pretty like, you know, my friends and I are like, oh, okay, well, you know, your friends and you are going to be okay. Like, I'm just going to leave.
Yeah, we're looking at dungeon events a lot just between the seasons and player feedback to make sure that they're fun to play and people want to engage with them. And this is kind of one of those things that we saw. We're like, yeah, we could do this. Yeah, so next we have traps. In our dungeons, the overall readability has been improved, and the crowd control on the player has been reduced. Look at that slow motion.
Slow motion action shot.
So it will be.
Ich habe ein bisschen das Gefühl, als würden Sie die Präsentation gerade selbst zum ersten Mal sehen. Ich weiß nicht, also ein Plus in den Chat, wer das auch hat. Die sind so überrascht von der Präsentation. Ist das erste Mal jetzt? So wie wir? Yeah, nice, ich mag das. Ist authentisch.
Players, I want to make sure players are not confused about this. We're not just talking about CC on the traps, right?
Right. We're talking about just CC across the board from monsters. Just in general, like your CC time will be decreased.
Yeah. So if I get stunned by a vampire knight, I'm going to spend less time CC'd.
Right. Less time CC'd and less time going back and restarting the Nightmare Dungeon because you died.
Right. Yeah. And this is really valuable with increased density, of course, because there are more monsters on screen.
Exactly.
Finde ich gut.
Yeah, there's a pretty extensive amount of changes coming for CC. So when players get a chance to check out the patch notes and everything, they'll see the full run through of all the changes that are coming up.
Wenn jemand in Season 2 einen Dungeon findet, wo der ganze Screen voller Monster ist, dann soll er mir bitte einen Screenshot machen und den in den Discord stellen. Den schenke ich in 1 Jahressub. Den ersten, die das finden.
What those are.
And also our Paragon.
Den ganzen Screen voll.
Increased. this sort of falls in line with like the 40% faster leveling to 100. You also will get your Paragon glyphs leveled a bit faster.
Wieso werden die Glyphen erhöht? Die Glyphen selbst, die gingen doch relativ... Das wird alles beschleunigt. Ich weiß nicht, ob ich das gut finde.
That's it, though, right? Oh no, wait. There's a whole other section.
No, there's more stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, then sure.
You can't
Talk
have
about...
nightmare dungeons without the afflictions,
That's
right?
true. Talk about afflictions.
So we have a number of changes to some of our afflictions. We are constantly like looking at these and evaluating player feedback. The first one up that I have to talk about is backstabbers. So what it used to be was when a monster attacked you from behind, it just did a set increase in damage, which led to a lot of cases where players were getting one shot, right? So we changed this so that the close monsters attacks from behind will now cause you...
Ich fahre mal ganz kurz rein, weil jetzt hier auch die Stimmung vielleicht ein bisschen gibt. Die ganzen Änderungen, was zu einer Beschleunigung von Diablo 4 führen, ja, das ist eine ganz logische Überlegung, weil sowieso in der nächsten oder übernächsten Season das erste Add-on kommt. Mit dem ersten Add-on kommt eine Levelerhöhung und dann kannst du diese ganzen Beschleunigungsdinger wieder zurücksetzen. Aber du hältst die Leute halt leichter bei der Stange und auch die breitere Masse, wenn die einfach mal ein bisschen vorpushen. Und viele Sachen, die da drin sind, wie schneller reiten, durch Barrikaden reiten und in den Dungeon boarden, das sind einfach Sachen, die hätten eigentlich im Base-Game drin sein sollen. Das Einzige, was ich nicht verstehen kann, ist, warum man den XP-Gain um 40% beschleunigt. Also das ist etwas, das kann ich jetzt nicht ganz nachvollziehen, warum man 40% schneller levelt. Das macht für mich keinen Sinn.
Of your critical strikes for 3 seconds, and then this also scales by the dungeon tier. So now once again, like if this happens to you, you have the opportunity to play around it, and it's not just completely nerfing your damage the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, people would avoid this one, this affliction particularly, because it was a massive reduction in damage overall, because you didn't have any control over it either, right?
Right. And just in general, what we want to avoid are afflictions that are instant salvage, right? We don't want you to like look at your sigils and say, oh, I don't want to play that, and then just toss it every single time you see it. So this is sort of like a greater effort to make this a bit more fun, so you can see it and know that like it's going to be more difficult, but not unplayable.
Right.
Death Pulse. So we made some changes.
Du hast das selbst gesagt, von 90 bis 100 war ein Krampf. Ja, aber von 90 bis 100, der Krampf war deswegen, weil du ehrlich gesagt, schon von Level 70 bis 100 das genau gleiche immer machst. Also ich habe in der gesamten Playtime, man kann das nachschauen, ich habe 100 Stunden Diablo 4 Season 1 gespielt mit meinem Level 100er Charakter, habe rumgechillt ohne Ende, also du kannst das leicht in der Woche auch schaffen. Mit der Beschleunigung auch werden die ersten Leute, glaube ich, nach 3 Tagen 100 sein. Aber es geht nicht darum, dass es irgendwie zu lange per se dauert, sondern es geht darum, dass du genau das Gleiche mit den gleichen Dungeons immer machst. Das ist das Problem. Und jetzt ist nichts dabei, was den Endgame-Content praktisch füllt, sondern es wird einfach nur diese Zeitschranke runtergesetzt, dass du dann 100 bist.
This is a change coupled with the other changes where it only starts with when players are in combat, and it only starts when you have a direct path to the protection bubble. These holistic changes were basically implemented to make sure that Lightning Storm doesn't slow down your Nightmare Dungeon exploration. What we were seeing a lot was players wanted to get through the Nightmare Dungeons quickly, but when they had Lightning Storm, they had to like stop, run backwards, go hide in the bubble, wait.
Das ist vielleicht gar keine schlechte Änderung mit dem, dass du ein bisschen Movement Speed rauskriegst.
A ton because
ist immer noch für die Gruppe nutzlos.
And then these other 2 changes mostly focus on some of the more egregious examples where like a traversal is in between you and the bubble and you can't get to it in time, or for some reason it's just a little too far behind you and it's difficult to get to. These will ensure that you know when the lightning storm is going to happen, and you know there is a way to get to the bubble.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And finally, Drifting Shade. The duration of the drifting shade has decreased from 5 seconds to 3 seconds, and the respawn time has increased by 2 seconds. So similarly.
Mal ganz kurz, wir haben eine wichtige Umfrage oben. Nehmt euch bitte diese 5 Sekunden und gebt mal an, wo euer Season Char ist. Ja, also ist der 60, 70, 80, 90 oder 100, dann haben wir gleich einen Querschnitt. Wir haben 4000 Leute da. Da kann jetzt jeder mal draufklicken, oberhalb des Chat, draufgeklickt, runtergefahren, eingetappt, hoch. Wenn ihr mehrere Klassen habt, könnt ihr die auch gerne irgendwie zusammentun und schreibt es nicht in den Chat, sondern trägt es in die Umfrage ein.
Yep, more.
Es gibt Tage, da hasse ich den Chat. Es gibt Tage, da hasse ich den Chat.
In addition to Nightmare Dungeons, this is also for our normal dungeons, but we changed some of the objectives for a handful of...
Die Umfrage.
See this in the Nightmare Dungeons for this season specifically, but we removed the objectives so that now when you go into the dungeon, all you have to do is really just go find the boss. You can focus on the critical path. There are dungeons
das stimmt, das ist echt gut. Einfach find the boss.
That are optional, but if you want to go in and find the boss, you can just go in and go straight to the boss. So we're trying out this change. We're going to see kind of how it works with the dungeons that we've implemented it on, and we're definitely keeping an eye out on player feedback to see how they like it.
I know Rax, who's watching, has a tear of joy sliding down his face right now after hearing that, I'm sure.
And finally, for the pool of Nightmare Dungeons this season, like we do every season, we've went and evaluated the dungeon layouts, and we've redesigned a number of these. So for the ones that do have objectives, we've changed them.
Man muss sagen, dieses Backtracking, das wollen sie schon ewig lang rauskriegen, aber ich glaube, das ist einfach basierend auf dem Dungeon-Design, das du in Diablo 4 hast, lässt es sich oftmals einfach nicht verhindern. Ich meine, jetzt haben sie schon wieder so ein Beispiel, das lässt sich oftens einfach auch nicht verhindern.
Running back and forth.
Das Beste, was da passieren kann, ist, dass du am Ende eine T10, also eine Tierlist zusammenkriegst von 10 Dungeons, die du laufen kannst mit maximaler XP und nicht von 5. Dann war das schon mega erfolgreich.
In this first objective here, we had our elites that you needed to kill. They were kind of off in the wings, and it created these really bad situations where if you took a wrong turn and then you realized too late that you missed one, you'd have to go all the way back and track that guy down and waste a ton of time. So we moved these objectives to the critical path. So as long as you're just on the main path, on the main loop, you will encounter them. And even if you do make a wrong turn, the penalty for getting back onto the critical path is not that significant. So it's like just less downtime in between reaching these objectives.
All right. Next we have...
Seht ihr das nicht als Verbesserung an? Ja. Es ist, ich sag mal, wie es ist, mathematisch gesehen eine Verbesserung.
Hold the slide. I think.
There
it is. Yes. So we've heard feedback from players. They're looking for more uptime on some of these events. They're looking for more opportunities to go and engage with this kind of content. So we made some changes as part of Season 2. So right off the bat, Legion events, time between events has been reduced from 30 minutes to 25 minutes. They're going to be more, you'll find them more frequently as you're playing. This is great because you do want to go farm these to get the materials you need to go fight Lord Zir, particularly when you're in World Tier 4. So great opportunities for you to go and do these things. We've increased the duration of the warning timer. Moved that from 5 minutes to 10 minutes. One of the big reasons why we did this, and we did this in a few different places, but one of the reasons we did this is in situations where the player's like wrapping up a nightmare dungeon or they're just in an instance, we want to give them a chance for them to pop out and happen to see that warning is up so they know that they can go and try to chase that down. We also fixed some minor issues here where Legion event pins would not display.
Für die ein bisschen später reingekommen sind, ich habe gerade von der Redaktion eine Zusammenfassung geschickt gekriegt, das wird hier mitgetrackt. Also wenn ihr ein bisschen later seid, hier gibt es schon die Zusammenfassung, da findet ihr dann alles andere, was hier irgendwie verpasst haben könntet und sonstiges. Es gibt auch schon die Screenshots für die Bluternte, die Quality Changes und, das Ganze inklusive der Übersetzung. Das wird jetzt nebenbei live gemacht und jetzt ist Dankeschön.
To find and chase down as they play.
Yeah, it was something that, players have been talking about, hey, I have a set schedule, or am I always at work when these world boss spawns occurs. So now there's more opportunities for players to end up getting their chance at a world boss, which is really
World
good.
boss have
Yeah,
reduced.
likewise, we have increased the warning timer for these bosses from 30 minutes to
60
60 minutes to
Minuten
really
warning.
let you know when they're about to start. You can go plan to go and hit these because again, these have slightly higher drops for the Lord Zir fight, for example, and they still have good rewards attached to them as well. So those are up, and then we also made sure that there's now a message that's broadcast to all players when a world boss is 15 minutes away from spawning. So again, doubling down, making sure the players.
Ich muss sagen, das Problem der World Bosse immer an die hohe Spawnzeit, lass einmal dahingestellt, das Problem liegt immer darin, dass der Loot nutzlos ist. Weißt du, ich meine, die müssten theoretisch gesehen den Loot-Table und so weiter verbessern. Also die Änderungen, das ist schon ganz cool, aber es geht nicht weit genug. Ja, es geht einfach nicht weit genug, finde ich jetzt persönlich. Und ob der World Boss jetzt 7 Mal am Tag kommt, du, wenn du nicht hingehst, gehst du nicht hin.
When you finish Whisper Cache, you got effectively like the lowest sigil tier key from that tier, from that world tier. So now the way it's going to work is when you go and you turn in all your whispers and you get your new summoning materials for Roshan, and you also get a random nightmare sigil on turn in. That sigil is always going to be within 5 levels of the highest nightmare dungeon you complete in that tier. So they're going to be more relevant for you based on your current progression as you continue to go. So I think that's going to be a fun change for players. The next, so I really want to hammer down this.
Wann habe ich gesagt, sie sollen die Kiste... Das ist im letzten Talk drin, oder? Dass ich meinte, dieser Tree of Whisper soll 2 Millionen Gold in der Kiste haben. Dann spielen die Leute das.
Greatly.
So if you're looking for gold for your build, whether you're trying to do like a mass...
Es schaut doch wer meine Videos. Ich weiß nicht, wer bei Blizzard das übersetzen muss, aber Gott sei Dank schaut jemand meine Videos.
Get exactly the efficacy you're looking for. Whispers end up being a really great source of gold for you to continue to farm as you're getting into the end game, and remain so as you go. So it's going to be a really, really big change for you to be able to engage with as you play. And then, so next up, I know Joe already talked about some of the changes we're making to experience in other places. Here, we've also made sure that like Whisper turn-ins, for all your bounties and the Helltide caches, the XP rewards from those moments are much more substantial in this point. We're okay with the idea that Nightmare Dungeons remain a really great source of experience for players. That's fine. But we want to make sure that Whispers and Helltide features in particular are brought up to feel that they are more competitive with Nightmare Dungeons. But now that there's also the addition of these summoning materials that you need from these content types, there are also other rewards, and then even gold from Whispers. There's other rewards you're going to be getting at the same time. So while experience from Whispers is really dramatically increased, be really great, particularly on the 1 to 50, as you want to use more Whispers potentially to level up than you have in the past. There are advantages, no matter which way you want to go. And then, some minor things here. So Whisper caches, we're granting items from that reward moment that weren't always tied to the item slot associated with the cache. So we've gone through, we've made some changes on the loot side to ensure that won't be the case anymore. So if you go and you open a boots cache, then you're always going to get boots from that cache. So that's going to be a change. That's also, that change has been propagated to the Helltide caches as well. It shouldn't be the case anymore that you end up opening a two-handed weapon cache and you just get a ring or something along those lines. And then also, Helltide chests now also have specific icons on the map to indicate their type. So if you're trying to figure out exactly where rings could be found or where you could find light weapons or whatever else, it's a little bit easier for you to find those things.
Gilt das auch für die 250er Kiste?
So yeah, some good changes for endgame activity stuff there.
All right. Next we got some UI and UX changes I know that we're putting into the game. Joe, do you want to take us through these?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, players have been able to mark items as junk for a while now, and once an item is marked as junk, you can actually sell all junk in your inventory, which is pretty handy. But it's really sort of, some players have different ways that they want to manage their inventory. They've got players who are like, I want to go back to town, and then I want to do all this, or I want to do it in the field. And so we want to provide more flexibility for players who like to manage their inventory in different ways to do that. So we've added the ability to favorite items, and of course, this protects from situations where you might have accidentally salvaged or sold an item that is really important. When you use the sort button in your inventory or on your stash, aspects that have the same power will now be sorted together so that they're.
Das hört sich gut an.
Helps out a
hört sich
lot
gut
more
an.
when you're trying to dig through your inventory.
Dass das mal ein bisschen
and figure out
sortiert wird.
where things are.
This one is a little bit subtle. So when you're looking at the affixes that are listed on an item tooltip, so maybe you have strength and crit chance, something like that, the sorting of those affixes is now consistent within the type of affix that it is. So if you have two items that both have strength on them, the strength is going to appear in the same location vertically in the list of affixes, which makes it a little bit easier to evaluate
when you're comparing both
two
of them.
items to each other.
Exactly.
And dungeon map tooltips. This is, I know, Adam, this is one that.
This is one I like. As soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
So they'll now display, when there's an active whisper, they'll now display the aspect name and the description. It's no longer hidden by the whisper being active on the dungeon.
Yeah, everyone's got one or two things in particular that are fairly small in isolation. They're like, oh, thank God that thing is obtained. Like that one thing got updated, which is great. We're excited.
Mm-hmm. Of course, this is a really cool one. You can now search and filter your stash.
Hier ist die
and I think we have video of this. This includes text search. You've got a bunch of different filters down there. You can filter by item type, item rarity. You can filter by sacred and ancestral items. And then you can see there at the bottom we've got a text box, so you can search for keywords and other text on the item. And this searches across all your stash tabs too. Yeah. So if you take a look at the top there, you can see that well, it's a little bit hidden by the tooltip right now, but you can see that there are 4 items in this tab that have that fill the criteria and none in the other tab. Or in this case, there are 3 in that tab and 1 in the other tab. So they're highlighted, so make it easier for players to search through and find items in their stash.
Yeah, another hotly requested item from players
Absolutely.
as well. A lot of our UI UX updates in general are, fueled by feedback that we've received either, through social media or on our forums.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oder weil der jessirocks diese Frage vor dem Interview mit Rod Ferguson gestellt hat.
So players that want to hide identifying information, like character names or BattleNet tags for other players, can now find these settings in the social options menu.
That's right, streamers. You got streamer mode.
Streamer mode.
And this is a one that we've seen a lot of feedback on. Players want to be able to hide vulnerable, the status effect texts. So vulnerable, dodge, fortified. This is an option that's been added to the menu to hide those, so you can hide them along with hiding the combat numbers.
Yeah, this is a direct response to everyone on X and other media platforms that will text on a regular basis asking for this option.
Yeah, they'd be like, I can hide the numbers, but I can't hide, fortify.
Totally fair. Happy to get this out to players. Yeah.
And we've added an auto run feature, so you can bind a key to auto run. And then you can, the character will run in the direction that they're facing on a controller or the direction that you...
Endlich Autorun. Endlich mal geradeaus laufen.
And then you can review your inventory, bring up the map, do those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And then we have a lot of...
one more thing.
Oh.
I don't want to forget this.
I'm like, see, we have so much stuff, and I know... I try to get ahead of myself, and I'm like, let's go to the next section.
This one is important. Antonio was talking about the improvements to Nightmare Dungeons to help navigate through them. This change to the minimap significantly zooms out the base zoom level of the minimap, and this will really help players navigate through towns, navigate through some areas of the world that are sort of more dense.
Aber keine Overlay Map.
And navigate in dungeons. This means that when you're in a dungeon, you can see more of the dungeon layout that's near your player on the minimap than you could before.
Yeah, if you're approaching a fork in the overworld, you're not sure which way leads back to the main trail. Like this is definitely a huge benefit for players. Right. Yeah.
And I know now I can get ahead of myself here. We have a lot of updates regarding items as well that we do want to kind of go over. So, Mr. Joey P.
Oh, yeah, sure. Happy to talk about some things. So yeah, we made a few changes. I know that some things we've already talked about a bit before, right? But here, gems no longer drop directly as rewards. Now players can be earning these new gem shards, these
Ich finde das von den Gems gut.
use at the jeweler to craft their own gems. So basically, as you're wandering through the world and you're killing monsters, you're opening chests, you're gonna be dropping these fragments as you play, and rather than having like individual items that go into your inventory, these shards are gonna go into your materials tab, and then as you want to create gems, you can go back to the jeweler. You can spend those fragments to create gems rather that will go into your inventory that you can then slot on items the way that you like. So it basically takes all of those gems that have been randomly appearing from completing events and opening chests out of your inventory, and gives you the option as the player to choose when you want to go and create gems that you need for your items.
And just to make sure people are aware, like, of course, when you do create a gem, it does then appear in your inventory, which then allows you to then, of course, sock it into an item. But now you won't be finding all those gems out in the world that will fill up your inventory. Those will just appear as material.
Das heißt, die Gems gibt es weiterhin in dem Tab, nur den Staub nicht.
Go and create better gems. So yeah, big changes there. It frees up a lot of inventory space. Feels good. Enchantment cost been updated. What a strange set of lines.
But very general.
So the ultimate thing here that I want to cut to is enchantment costs overall have been reduced. But the way that works out is that your initial enchant cost is going to be a little bit higher than it is currently for your first enchant, the first time you do it. And then the
Ist jetzt doppelt so teuer.
cost of that, of re-enchanting that item is going to go up much more slowly over time. And it's not going to spike quite as quickly. So players overall, it's going to be a little bit less expensive for players to go and try to re-roll items to their heart's content to find things they're looking for. And this partnered with the changes that we made to Whisper Bounty cash turn-ins, where you get like way more gold from at those moments. Greatly, significantly increased in those situations, are going to help those defer a lot of those costs for players if you don't end up using a lot of that gold to go and trade and do other things instead. So yeah, big changes there.
Ich habe auch das gelesen, a little bit less expensive, 4%.
Change here is that when players get into higher world tiers, I'll read the line and then I'll explain it. So craft materials will drop in place of lower item power, normal magic, and rare equipment in world tiers 3 and 4. And what do I mean when I say that? What I mean is when you go into world tier 3 and you start getting sacred items dropping for monsters, you will find that you will no longer be having normal items dropping for monsters. The only items that will drop for monsters in world tier 3 will be sacred in nature, their equipable gear, right? So instead, when you would have got like a rare item before, that is going to be, you're going to get crafting materials that you can use instead, dropping on the ground if you just go run over and pick up, as opposed to having that rare item in your inventory. Now, this is another one of the reasons why we made this big change to the Whisper Gold increase. We made some other gold increases as well, to basically offset any concerns that players might have about needing to sell off all of those typical rare items, as they're progressing through. Now, I will say that if a legendary item drops for you that is of normal quality that you could have got level 50, in World Tier 2, if a legendary item drops for you, that will still appear for you in World Tier 3. So that you're not going to be losing out on legendary items that potentially could drop for you in part of the experience. When you go into World Tier 4, only ancestral items will drop for you as you're playing. You will no longer see sacred items or normal items from that point forward. But once again, legendary and unique items in that case of sacred nature or normal nature will still continue to appear for you as you continue to play. But for the most part, getting a ton of these items out of your inventory as part of this change.
Yeah, it's the
Trifft das auch die Rare-Items? Weil ich dachte mir, es gibt einen riesigen Markt für gelbe Items, die das resellen wegen den Aspekt und ein Legendary draus machen und das für Milliarden von Gold verkaufen.
The benefit of getting all the materials now from the items that were dropping beforehand, they'll just now be materials that will be in their materials tab.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's not even the end of the big changes we have planned. So another thing that we're doing as part of Season 2, and again, this is on the Eternal Realm and also in the Seasonal Realm, is that when you start to go into World Tier 3 and 4, items that are dropping for you are going to get more powerful based on the monster level that you're fighting. This is in response to, so all of the item changes we're making in response to player feedback we've been receiving since preseason and Season 1. Season 2 represents the first really great opportunity that we've had to spend a good amount of time kind of responding to this feedback, getting things tested, getting these things into the game. So we're really excited to offer things like this.
Okay, Smokes hat dann
there's
beantwortet.
situations where
Smoke.
players will get into World Tier 3, they'll finish off a lot of the gear that they need inside Sacred Tier fairly early, 50, 55, 56. They start getting ready to make the transition potentially early into World Tier 4 to get into their Ancestral Tier. And then that can end up in a situation where by the time that you are level 65, 68, 70, you've kind of collected all the ancestral gear that you can get, minus uniques you might still be hunting for, once you get into that tier. But you might have already got all of the gear that you're looking for, particularly eye power-wise, as you're progressing through. Now the way that we've changed things is that starting in Sacred Tier, I guess we'll talk about Sacred Tier first. So if you fight a level 55 monster, you'll have the typical Sacred eye power range when you're fighting that creature. When you fight a level 56 creature, the eye power minimum and maximum of that range increases by 2. So every monster level from that point forward, the eye power of the potential output of that item is higher as a result of that, to encourage players to want to go and try to fight higher level, more difficult creatures as they're progressing through the game. When we talked before about the monster trailing change that we made, the monster level trailing change we made earlier in the presentation today, Joe mentioned that was kind of aligned with some other things we were trying to do to make sure the players felt they were getting more powerful as time progressed. And part of that is ensuring the players have a sense of progress as they go. And when we think about sacred and ancestral progression, when you're getting into that part of the game, one of the things we've wanted to try to ensure is that players do have the time needed to go and kind of gather items of value that they can use to put their build together. But we don't want the player to feel like in an effort to hit that solution, the feeling of not feeling and not getting any real progress past level 70 in this case, if you're getting into your ancestral gear fairly early, that's not worth the cost of making sure that you've got your time to get your things together. So instead, we want to make sure that you have opportunities for upgrades as time goes on, right? So in World Tier 4, starting at level 75, you'll have the typical range, but then that continues to go up by 2, for every monster level above that, so, going up pretty high. Once you get to level 100, now you're dealing with ancestral items of eye power potential of 920 at that point. And that's just at level 100, right?
Hat der gerade 920 gesagt, wo 840 das Limit war?
101 monsters, level 102 monsters. The minimum range of the item output goes up by 1 for every monster level from that point forward. So you'll get to a point where you're fighting level 150 creatures and such, that the eye power range of that item, 125 monsters and such, the eye power ranges of those items are effectively on par. It's like 920 to 920 is like the end result long term as you go deeper and deeper into the system.
Yeah, so you start to shrink down that window.
Yeah, you slowly shrink down that window so that as you're getting drops for yourself in the world and in Nightmare Dungeons and other content types, it's much more likely to get the maxed out eye power rolls that you're looking for. Now, one change we didn't make as part of this is we didn't change the ranges on affixes that are attached to these. So the change that we're talking about here is getting you more weapon damage on your weapons, more armor value on your armor pieces, and more of the inherent resistance, which is so much more important now in Season 2 than it was in the past, attached to your jewelry. So that will continue to grow as you get more eye power for these gear pieces.
Hat ja gerade gesagt, also mehr Armor und mehr Dings kommt dann on top.
More difficult monsters, and we want that. We think that's fun, right? But that's not, we want to make sure that other content pieces also provide the opportunity for meaningful rewards as well. So one other change that we made here for Whispers, for example, is that the caches that you get at the end of a Whisper turn-in, the rewards for that are actually 10 eye power better. We should say that they
Stimmt, plus 14 wäre hier besser gewesen.
Get, because usually rewards that you get from these caches are based on your character level at the moment that you turn these things in, based on the world tier that you're in. Now there's an offset, so you get additional item power value from the items that you get from that cache normally. And then in addition to that, the upgrade caches, the legendary cache that can occasionally appear when you're turning in your Whispers, those are going to give you 20 eye power above what your level is at that moment. Meaning these end up being compelling ways for players to want to go and try to collect rewards from engaging with these systems.
Man muss mal ganz kurz zusammenfassen. Also für die später rein sind, hier gibt es eine Live-Übersetzung und eine Live-Zusammenfassung. Und hier, man sieht es unterm Strich wird in Season 2 das gesamte Gearing, der gesamte Levelprozess mit den 40% mehr XP und so weiter, Diablo 4 wird nach vorne geschoben. Also wir sind jetzt da, wo Diablo 3 vielleicht mit Season 14 oder 15 schon war. Also das pusht das ganze Game enorm nach vorne. Also vom Speed Farming her, vom Equipment her, auch mit dem Erhöhen der Item Power auf 920, das schiebt es extrem nach vorne. Viele von den Quality Changes, also die man beim Interface gesehen haben, die kann man auf jeden Fall begrüßen. Also das sieht für mich so aus, als würde die nächste Season, spätestens die übernächste Season, das Add-on kommen, weil mit diesem Tempo hast du Diablo 3 in 3 Seasons eingeholt.
Some good changes for players to feel they're getting some of those upgrades as they play through those content tiers in World Tier 3 and World Tier 4. They have a smoother journey as they continue to level up their character. This mixed with like the experience point changes and a lot of the Nightmare Night stuff that we talked about so far, represents a big, basically us trying to respond to like our experiences playing again and then the feedback from players.
I'm gonna like go back to 20 minutes or 30 minutes ago when we were talking about the 5 bosses and being able to progress through them. One thing that we talked about Uber Duriel and how
Duriel, king of maggots, His Majesty.
Exactly. Uber Duriel. But with all these new bosses, because they all have their own loot tables and everything associated with them, at least with Duriel, because that in itself is a level 100 boss. So what type of like kind of item power can you expect to find off of like Duriel?
Yeah, you'll find iPower 920 stuff off Duriel. So there are unique items that Duriel drops that are only, some of them are very new and they're coming in with Season 2, that only come from Duriel that are just really powerful, right? And then there are the uber unique items that drop as well. Now, for the unique items dropping, there is a tighter range versus like relative to other bosses and other things. In general, unique items that drop from these bosses they're not going to roll the full like 75 eye power range. They're much tighter across the board as you kind of step up into the more powerful bosses. So I think the eye power range for Duriel, the eye power range for Duriel is much smaller than 75. I don't remember exactly what the range is specifically for that number, but. That is increased, but the uber unique items that drop from that have a chance to drop, a low chance to drop, but still will certainly drop from Duriel. Those are always rolled at cap, so they're always rolled at the highest eye power possible, and all of the affixes on the uber unique also always roll at the highest values possible. So when you get an uber unique item,
stimmt. Kann ich mal ein Plus von jedem im Chat haben, der jetzt mal wissen will, was es Neues im Battle Pass gibt und im Shop, damit wir auch mal ein bisschen Geld rüberwerfen für diesen unglaublichen Content? Jetzt wird's mal Zeit für Battle Pass.
Yeah, that's awesome. Nice. Cool. Well, I know we just went through.
Ich kaufe den Battle Pass, wenn die kleine Fledermaus das Pet gibt.
Updates coming to the game. And again, like to reiterate, we still actually have more to talk about.
Yeah, we didn't talk about classes.
We didn't talk about unique items. We didn't talk about unique item changes.
We didn't talk about the damage buckets.
And I will note, like unique item changes, like I said before, like pretty much almost all unique items, or nearly all unique items, are getting some sort of update, which we will talk about on October 10th. I know a lot of people have asked for Mr. Adam Jackson to reappear. And he will be back on October 10th to talk about all the different class changes that are coming. And
he has been summoned.
He has been summoned. He's on vacation.
He's on vacation.
We got the materials.
He's watching, though.
We got the materials to summon.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about all that stuff. We're also going to be talking...
Wie, der hat Urlaub. Was soll das heißen?
Resistance changes and stuff that we've been talking about already today, and how it's going to be much more valuable for people to be ensuring that they have it on like rings and all those other items.
Well, and there are changes to the we're getting into it, but there are changes to the way that it works. So, like folks at home might be saying like, oh, that like there's a resistance boss, but like with the current resistance system, how is that going to work? And the 1010 stream is really going to explain it, how those changes work. And,
Exactly. And I will also note that on the 1010 stream, we will even be talking about the first update that will be coming even after Season 2 launches. And that's something that we can briefly talk about here, which is after Season 2 launches, we'll of course have additional updates that will be coming within the season. And each of these updates are going to be adding new things, new ways of being able to enjoy the content and new features that players have been asking for. So we'll be actually showcasing what 1-1 will be in that October 10th stream as well. So people will get an early look of what the first update post Season 2 launch will be. And of course, we have a lot more to even talk about.
Ich muss sagen, ich sehe das ein bisschen kritisch mit den Live-Klassen-Badges in der Season.
Make sure to check it out. Of course, we'll be streaming, and there'll be more information about, I know, the the BlizzCon collection items and everything that will be available for players to be able to partake in. That will have items within Diablo 4 and of course items from other games that are going to be featured at BlizzCon.
Jetzt muss er ganz genau aufpassen, dass er nicht sagt, dass auf der BlizzCon ein Add-on angekündigt wird, weil sonst hat der Adam das Add-on geleakt.
All of us
Los, lach drüber, der war gut.
BlizzCon, so make sure to, if you are going to be coming to Anaheim, to check it out, and if you're interested in coming, of course you can grab a ticket to BlizzCon, which is in early November, so should be good. First weekend of November, Friday and Saturday. All right, one other thing that we did want to talk about is there's some changes that are coming in regards to Smoldering Ashes for the free tier of the Battle Pass, because we've gotten a lot of feedback from players, and this kind of ties back to the experience items that we were talking about, where the tiers of the Smoldering Ashes were pretty deep in, and you would already be like a higher level and everything like that. And I know one of the big changes that we're doing is the character level requirements for those specific tiers with Smoldering Ashes have been reduced. So players will now actually run into those Smoldering Ashes and be able to use them. And they will automatically unlock now, which is really nice. Earlier within the actual Battle Pass as they're playing through, which is
so if you happen to miss one when you're leveling up, which I think happened to a lot of players, certainly happened to me. It's like it's now when you go back to the when you go and you actually open up the Battle Pass, you'll see that you've already unlocked those Smoldering Ashes. You can go right and spend those in your season blessings
and
benefit from them right away.
On new season blessings, yes, there are 3 new season blessings for season 2 that will be part of the new Battle Pass, of course. And of course, one other thing with the Battle Pass is there is going to be new town portal skins that will be unlocked and available for players as well. So of course, you can now change from blue town portal to different color town portal if you'd like, and there will be other town portal skins available in the Battle Pass as well. So
I like this angelic.
Na, bei wem geht das Wallet schon auf?
Look like you're friends with Imperius, or like best friends with Imperius, with your new town
and again,
portal.
the free track.
Exactly.
Yep.
Imperius, Inarius, sorry.
Well, any of the angels.
Technically,
just pick
it would be more
angel.
orange, I would say, if it was Imperius to match him. So I've been playing some Heroes of the Storm lately. So
Love Heroes of the Storm.
I've got Imperius on my mind right now. Well, we do actually have one other big news thing that we did want to actually talk about today as well, which is we are bringing more Diablo 4 players into the world, because we're here to announce that Diablo 4 is actually going to be launching on Steam with the launch of Season 2.
Was?
So on October 17th,
Alter,
Diablo
was?
4 will be
Das hauen die
available
einfach so raus, Diablo auf Steam?
Of course, is it carries over
Oh mein Gott, ich muss meine Blizzard-Aktien abstoßen. Was ist denn jetzt los?
all the other platforms. So cross-play,
Alter, jetzt gib mir mal den Chat hier.
Day 1 for anyone who does purchase on Steam. And so if you have friends on Battle.net and they prefer to play on Steam, they can, of course, play together from both sides, which
Diablo
is awesome
auf
to see.
Steam,
So
Alter.
wishlist will be available immediately after the stream for Diablo 4 coming on Steam. It's really nice if you have a Steam Deck, it's another option of being able to play Diablo 4, because you can now take it like on the road with you, which is really good to see. So,
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, lots of
Sanctuary on the go.
Sanctuary on the go, yeah. Which is good. And by the way, cross progression and everything, of course, that works with the console players as well. So if you're playing on Steam, you'll of course be able to play with Xbox and PlayStation users from that end. But I'm really impressed, by the way, that we got through a lot of content here in a pretty efficient manner.
So fast.
Jetzt kriegen wir von jedem Plus in den Chat, den diese Nachricht überrascht hat. Ne? Also Updates, Diablo Season Content, whatever, aber dass du Diablo 4, wenn mir wer gesagt hat, dass ich im Release-Jahr 2023 auf Steam Diablo 4 runterladen könnte, den hätte ich gebannt. What the fuck?
Correctly, but I know we will start off with one first question here as we grab more within the group. But what plans do you have for itemization
Yeah. So we've obviously
What the
got a
fuck?
ton of feedback about the feeling of earning rewards in Diablo 4 and the feeling of like the power of those items and how interesting they are and how easy they are to compare and what the path towards getting like perfect items feels like and really what players are meant to do once they reach like that threshold of the game where they're trying to like fully like perfect their build. We have a lot of ideas of things we want to add on the itemization side in Diablo 4. The sorts of things I talked about earlier in the item section, like those really are just like some first small steps of the sorts of things we want to do. But we're reading through all this feedback. We have all like really interesting ideas and designs that we're working on the side. And we're excited to be able to bring those things to you over time. And we'll be talking about more of them in the future. But yeah, we have big plans for itemization for Diablo 4.
Yeah, I mean, really
Man muss auch sagen, das muss auch kommen, ne? Weil die Itemization in Diablo 4 ist leider nicht die beste.
Yeah.
All right. Quick question here from Cursed47. It's great to improve mounts, but what will you do to fix and address open world items? Teleporting from Nightmare Dungeon.
Also vielleicht die Leute, die ein bisschen später reingekommen sind, wir haben hier eine kleine deutsche Zusammenfassung zu dem aktuellen Talk. Es kommen ein paar sehr, sehr gute Änderungen. Die Season 2 ist ein bisschen umfangreicher als die Season 1. Endgame-technisch werden zwar nur die World-Bosse, also diese 5 neuen Bosse oder so hinzugefügt, das sind ja keine World-Bosse, aber die Bosse kommen mit rein, also Endgame-technisch ist es nicht ganz so pralle. Was natürlich noch ein riesiger Vorteil ist, Diablo 4 legt den 3. und 4. Gang ein. Eigentlich legt es den 5. Gang ein, weil du Punkt 1 die ganzen Dungeons optimiert werden, die Laufwege minimiert werden, der Loot-Output wird nochmal gravierend erhöht und zusätzlich hast du 40% mehr XP. Also das geht jetzt mehr und mehr wirklich in die Richtung, wie es dann jetzt bei Diablo 3 schon bei dem mittleren Season war. Ich bin echt gespannt, wann wir den ersten 100er-Char sehen werden. Würde mich nicht wundern, wenn es innerhalb der ersten 24 Stunden ist. Und ich denke mal, dass man in der Woche sicherlich gut durchkommen wird, wenn man nicht auf die Bosse hunten möchte, weil da hängt es davon ab, wie viel oder wie häufig die dann auch wirklich alle spawnen werden. Also das schauen wir mal ab, aber wirklich die Information, dass es auch auf Steam kommt, das bringt vielleicht auch neue Spieler mit rein. Das heißt also mal schauen, ob es dann Richtung Warteschlange geht oder wie das läuft. Sind wir mal gespannt. Da bin ich echt mal gespannt. Am 10.10. kommt der nächste Talk, da geht es dann noch speziell um die Klassen, weil es wird sicher noch einiges genervt und gebufft. Aber unterm Strich ist es mal hier, es sind mehr Änderungen, als ich mir persönlich erwartet hätte. Muss man ganz ehrlich sagen, es sind mehr Änderungen, als ich es erwartet hätte.
Various parts of the endgame experience. There's a lot of room there for us to continue to create more distinct activities that appeal to different kinds of players, and also just continue to bring out like various kind of parts of Sanctuary to make things more fun and engaging for players. So this really is, again, like just the first step of the sorts of things we want to continue to add and inject into Diablo 4 over time, right? And adding more content to the overworld is a part of that. Particularly
Ich meine, man sieht hier halt, es gibt halt noch sehr viel, was man hinzuadden kann. Das Problem, was ich halt sehe, ist, ob für die Spieler wirklich ein Anreiz besteht, wenn sie Level 100 haben. Da bin ich mir nicht sicher. Also es ist ja jetzt nicht so, dass du Path of Exile oder so spielst, wo du dann praktisch hinten raus, dann geht es erst richtig los nach der Kampagne. Da bin ich noch nicht davon überzeugt.
I mean, it's on wheels, that's pretty cool.
I mean, I guess if it has wheels.
Yeah.
Sure.
Rolling on some good rims or something.
Okay, I guess Adam likes taking legs off puppies, but weird take.
Is there any chance of the level cap being removed off of Paragon glyphs?
Yeah.
Joe, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So we have talked before quite a bit about how we look at power progression in Diablo 4. Particularly, we talked a lot more about this like before launch, and a little bit before Season 1. But Diablo 4 is designed with the idea of kind of cap power progression sort of in mind. We want to make sure that we find the right ways for players to continue to grow the power of their characters as they continue to engage in the game. We will be looking for more opportunities for players, particularly as they reach level 100 and they're looking for more ways to get stronger and get more powerful. We want to find more ways for them to do that feel in ways that feel compelling and are fun and don't feel like this extra task work they have to do in order to like take that next step, right?
Yeah, I think
Paragon wird erhöht.
if I think about the reasoning behind that question, I think part of it comes down to we talk about cap power progression, which has good reasons, like you're talking about, but also players are saying like, well, I ran out of stuff to do. Can there be more stuff to do, right? And so increasing the Paragon glyph cap could be one way to do that. The way we're doing it in Season 2 is through all of the endgame boss summoning mechanics.
Yeah, the endgame boss summoning mechanics, and then the vampire powers people level up as you get through the season,
yeah.
right? But yeah, it's not even just having more things to do. It's making sure that there are more things to do that impact the performance of my character, and I feel like there's more ways I can get stronger.
At endgame for yes,
right.
Yeah, that's a much better way to say it.
No, yeah, but I think that it's all fair, right? I think that there's room here for us to continue to add more of that, add more to that experience, particularly as the players level 100.
Yeah.
I look forward to more of those, updates as we continue to kind of march along.
Yeah.
Mavastra says, could we have a Paragon board reset button, or be able to buy reset scrolls for a set amount of gold or something? Won't talk about anything today, but
we'll look into it.
Yeah.
Was war die Frage von dem Österreicher, wo ihn der Ward Ferguson komisch angeschaut hat?
Question that we have is from, trying to pronounce these names here.
Der Adam immer mit den Namen vorliest. Man muss aber fairerweise sagen, die Namen vorzulesen ist auch wirklich schwierig. Ja. Nee, mit Lootfilter habe ich sie verärgert, aber ich hatte davor schon noch normale Fragen.
The content changes for classes and the various item bucket changes and things, or the affix and skill bucket changes they've made. So I think that's a good question for that group to answer as part of that conversation. But I suspect that there are opportunities for us to make some improvements, particularly with some urban uniques. Yeah.
JJ Lafrite says, is the stash search usable for legendary powers and affixes?
Yes.
Yes, you can search through those. So it'd just be...
Weil ich es gerade hier mehrfach im Chat gelesen habe, also Freunde, jeder, der Diablo 4 im Battle.net gekauft hat, ne, da könnt ihr oben rechts raufgehen auf euren Account, dann könnt ihr euch den CD-Key anzeigen lassen und den könnt ihr dann direkt bei Steam einfügen. Um Gottes Willen, ey, ihr müsst das Spiel nicht zweimal kaufen. Wo kommen wir denn da hin?
Are there maybe plans for clan stashes or more opportunities for clans to actually be able to, share?
Yeah, we'd love to add more.
Und für alle, die das geglaubt haben, ihr wart noch nicht oft hier, oder? Natürlich musst du das Spiel auf Steam nochmal kaufen auf der anderen Plattform. Freunde, jetzt habt ihr wenigstens noch was gelernt um 21:45 Uhr.
Be receiving more coins in the Battle Pass instead of 666. And I know that there is a change this season for the Battle Pass because there was a lot of feedback where players would receive platinum and then they wouldn't be able to actually end up using that platinum to be able to grab something from the shop. You will be able to use platinum from the Battle Pass this season because there's going to be options now that will meet that specific amount. So players will have some options available to them from that end. Bicepulus? Look, I pronounced it right. Proud of myself. How many uniques will you add every season? Any news on set items?
So no news on set items just yet. So in terms of the number of uniques we're adding every season, we've been sticking to around 6 so far. There are more than 6 as part of Season 2. Mm-hmm. So we'll talk more about that. I believe in the blog we talk about some of these numbers. But yeah, I think there's more than 12 uniques in Season 2 right now. Yeah. We'll be continuing to evaluate these counts as we go.
Du musst ja auch dazu sagen, also für alle, die Diablo 4 auf dem PC spielen oder auf der PlayStation 5 oder auf der Xbox, die mussten das Spiel ja auch 3-mal kaufen. Na, also wenn du Diablo 4 jetzt am PC spielst und du spielst Diablo 4 auf der PlayStation, dann musstest du das Spiel ja 2-mal kaufen.
We think that there should be more in a season, and Season 2 is representative of that direction.
Yeah. Question from Fletchy. Good name, not biased at all.
Der hat sich den rausgelucht, ey.
Echo of Lilith regarding difficulty.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So Echo of Lilith is our pinnacle challenge boss. She is very, very difficult. And we've made some adjustments to her to make her a little bit easier for players of different builds to take down, which I think you've seen some of those changes even during the course of Season 1. But in Season 2, Duriel is designed not to be at that same level of difficulty. He is a little bit easier because you can use all the materials to go and fight Duriel and you could fail. right? So like we want to make sure that if you have gotten your build together and you know the fight really well and you've got the proper amount of poison resist, which I recommend, that's going to make it a little bit easier to engage with overall versus the hard mechanical challenge that Lilith poses kind of separately. So Duriel is going to be less difficult overall to overcome than Uber Lilith in this way.
I'm going to try to combine two questions into one here because I think they're pretty similar in terms of, or at least we can talk about them both together. Team Loose Leaf asks, will the 5 new bosses you target farm be a permanent addition after season 2? Don't answer that yet. Oh, you already did. But we can go. Thanks, Joe.
You have to say it before.
I did. I was saying I was going to combine
two.
And then now I can't even find the other question, but it was related to. Oh, here it is. Fat Teppy says, "Do you guys have any plans for Eternal Realm content, something permanent that isn't just seasonal?" Which I do want to note because Joe just mentioned. Yes, the boss ladder items that we were just talking about will be going beyond season 2, and then they also will be part of the Eternal Realm day 1 with season 2. So even Eternal Realm characters will be able to partake in.
Meint ihr, wir müssen dann mit dem Season-Start mal ganz kurz auf Steam schauen und ein paar Reviews lesen? Also ohne Witz, ne? Wie es gibt ein Review-Bombing. Jetzt mit Season 2, da kommen ein paar gute Changes rein. Okay, Diablo 4 Endgame-Content können wir drüber streiten, aber es ist schon mal ganz solide. Ich möchte jetzt nicht auf Steam dann lesen, ey, was für ein Shit-Game.
You do see that there's a lot of space in here for players in Eternal Realm and in Seasons to go and engage with different kinds of content at different points in progression. So we are excited about trying to provide more of those opportunities as we kind of continue on in development for Diablo 4. It's part of making the game better, is making sure that it's more fun at those stages, particularly World Tiers 3 and especially World Tier 4.
Yeah.
Question from Ice Gammon. Have you guys given thought to craft specific nightmare dungeon keys rather than crafting over and over to get a specific dungeon?
Yes. We are still kind of talking about how we want players to engage in Nightmare Dungeons and what makes it most fun for them. So we're in constant conversations and we're looking at gameplay and analytics and also just general player feedback. And we're taking all of these things into account. So it is one of the things that we're thinking about.
All right. Question from Digital Wizard 91 regarding endgame boss mechanics. Is there any visual improvements to the readability of their attacks compared to other bosses or other encounters that we've
Also ich muss wirklich sagen, das mit Steam, das überrascht mich echt noch am meisten, dass Diablo 4 eben auf Steam kommt. Aber wie wir es jetzt im Chat auch richtig gelesen haben, es wird dann auch das erste Mal Zahlen geben. Das Problem ist nur, du weißt jetzt nicht, wie viel Prozent der Base spielt auf Steam und wie viel spielt im Battle.net Launcher. Ein gutes Beispiel ist Path of Exile. Path of Exile spielt 1/3 Standalone und 2/3 halt im Steam Launcher. Also das hatten die mal gesagt. Also da bräuchtest du von Blizzard auch eine Aussage, wie viel Prozent das wo nutzen. Jetzt, wenn es wirklich schon 8-9 Millionen Mal verkauft wurde, wie viele Leute das jetzt noch auf Steam kaufen werden, werden wir dann sehen. Ich sehe auf jeden Fall vielleicht noch ein bisschen Potenzial, ja, dass einfach neue Spieler reinkommen. Vielleicht taucht das beim einen oder anderen auf. Aber es lassen sich Rückschlüsse ziehen, das ist richtig, ja. Das stimmt.
It continues to be true.
Yeah, it continues to be true.
Has not changed. Is there any plans for this from Intrepid Gamer? Are there any plans for adding a trade interface where players aren't having to actually use other third-party tools, like going over Discord or something like that to potentially find opportunities to find other users that might have that?
Yeah, there's some light functionality baked into trade chat right now, but I think we're really, as part of the season, with the material trains can be available for players to use to summon bosses, I think we're starting to see players begin to stress the systems that we have, and based on their feedback, it's going to advise a lot of how we want to think about trading in the future for Diablo 4.
Yeah.
So that's going to tell us about UI UX enhancements we want to make and just general improvements to the kinds of things you can trade, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Arcadium.
Wer weiß, was das Beste ist, wenn Diablo 4 auf Steam ist? Wer weiß es? Wer weiß es von euch? Was ist das Allerbeste? Nicht, dass man die Spielzahlen oder so sieht, sondern ihr seht, wie viele Stunden ihr gespielt habt. Unglaublich gutes Feature.
We want to make the Codex of Power better in ways like that, and we'll have more to share on that in the future.
It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people chiming in specifically in chat about like things like leaderboards, which we've already talked about. That is actually a
coming in season 3.
Season 3 feature.
Yep.
So leaderboards are most definitely coming, and those will be available in season 3. Pugina TV says, "Do I need to buy the game again in Steam, or is there any source use of it in Steam if I bought it before?" You don't need to buy the game again on Steam. It's your choice. If you prefer to play on Steam, you can. Or sorry, let me clarify.
Yeah.
You do need to buy the game again on Steam if you want to play it on Steam. But if you already have the game, of course, you have the option of playing it on the other platforms, specifically from that front. There's some people
Na? Der Österreicher, vor 10 Minuten wurde ausgelacht.
have that option now, starting with Season 2 on October 17th, when the game becomes available on Steam. So, trying to think here.
Also die Kurzform ist, wenn du Diablo 4 hast im Battle.net, dann kannst du es übers Battle.net spielen. Aber wenn du es auf Steam spielen möchtest, dann musst du es auf Steam kaufen. Ich bin mir jetzt nicht sicher mit dieser externe Spiele-Integration oder wie auch immer, was vorhin im Chat geschrieben wurde, das muss auch von den Firmen zugelassen werden und ich glaube nicht, dass Blizzard dazu stimmt, weil die wollen ja Sales machen.
Good progression opportunities once they reach like level 100. They've capped out some of these sorts of systems. The exact contents of that, or like exactly what we're going to do, we're not ready to talk about just today.
Yeah.
But we are definitely aware of the interest in that particular solution, for example.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a lot about the changes in Season 2 that relate to leveling up to 100. And a natural consequence of this is that more players are going to reach 100.
Yep.
And that means they need content to do. And that's something that we're spending a lot of time thinking about right now.
VZAT says, can Duriel drop 920 item power rare items or just Uber uniques?
No, the items that drop from Uber Duriel at that stage are not going to always be, like the rare items won't always be 920 eye power. They're going to follow the same range as if we were a level 100 monster. So there's still a 75 eye power swing on the rare item drops from Uber Duriel, or the Duriel, the King of Maggots, right? So that's really more the focus there. The unique items obviously will have a much tighter range than 75 eye power swing of rare items, but the Uber uniques will always be at 920. But rare items, no, they will still have they'll still have a range. If you want to get a tighter range on rare items, then you can maybe potentially think about going and hitting nightmare dungeons of a higher eye power range, or a higher level range, because then you're going to start having the eye power min of the rare range start to go higher and higher with every new monster level that you fight.
A lot of questions about loot filters. Don't know if there's any plans or discussions regarding loot filters that you guys want to talk about.
I'll just acknowledge that being able to filter your loot is part of ARPG that many players enjoy, and we have heard that feedback, and it's something that we're exploring right now.
And then, let's see, there is a question from Misfit Dio, which is, will Nightmare Sigils rotate within the season, or will it be the same dungeons for the whole season?
It's going to remain the same set of dungeons for the season in the current format. You know, we can talk about what rotating them more frequently would feel like.
We hear you.
It would mean invalidating keys after a period of time, you know, or having a smaller selection of dungeons overall that rotates more regularly. But right now, we've really focused on making sure that we've got, you know, the set of like 25 really exciting Nightmare dungeons to engage with the season.
Yeah. All right, and we'll do one more question here, which is, actually, you know what, I know it's a question that a lot of people are talking about, which is stash tabs. And because obviously we have changes here for Season 2 that address a lot of inventory related concerns. Are there any plans for additional stash tabs in the future, or anything to discuss today?
I don't have any announcements on additional stash tabs, but what I can say is that we recognize that there continues to be a need, and that there will continue to be a need for more improvements to being able to store items. That's just players. It's an RPG. Players want to store a lot of items, and we're going to continue to make improvements in this area. You've seen some of them here today in Season 2, and we're going to continue to work on this.
Awesome. So took a bunch of questions here, and you know, we went through all the Season 2, Season of Blood changes, or new Season of Blood mechanics that are going to be coming for players on October 17th. Again, Season 1, which is Season of the Malignant, actually ends on October 17th, and Season 2 starts also on October 17th. All the dates and times are actually going to be listed on a blog that will be live immediately after this live stream. I will note that the plan is for Season 2 to actually start at 10 a.m. Pacific on the 17th. If you guys want to like pre-plan schedules or anything like that, you have that ability of being able to do so now. So we will actually be back here again for a campfire chat on October 10th with Mr. Adam Jackson, who will be going over all the class changes, class balance changes, class updates, as again, the resistance updates that are coming in within the game, along with the damage bucket updates for vulnerable, overpower, and critical strike damage updates that are coming, plus unique item updates that we are going to be covering off. Of course, we'll have a Q&A associated with that. So there's a lot to talk about on the 10th as well. And I will note that we do plan on having patch notes available on the 10th immediately after that stream, so people can read through what is currently 41 pages of patch notes for people to kind of sort through and read through all the changes that will be coming within the game. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. Again, Season 2 is October 17th, and again, Diablo 4 will now be available on Steam. You can wishlist that now, and it will be available with Season 2 when it arrives. So we have a lot to talk about on the 10th and to talk about 121.
So, meine Damen und Herren, 10.10. geht's weiter. Für alle, eine der größten Überraschungen ist wahrscheinlich, dass Diablo 4 jetzt auch auf Steam verfügbar ist. Und zwar direkt mit Season 2. Das bedeutet also ab dem 17.10. Das nächste, das Campfire, geht dann hauptsächlich um die Klassen. Also da wird das ganze Klassending dann weitergebracht. Wir müssten jetzt theoretisch, hätten wir noch auf der Diablo 4 Page, müssten wir eigentlich noch, da müssten wir noch ein paar Newses kriegen, wo man dann hier halt sieht, was so abgeht. Refresh mal die Steam-Seite. Und dann können wir uns mal überraschen lassen. Für alle, die es verschlafen haben, hier ist der Link zur aktuellen Zusammenfassung. Für die letzten 2 Stunden geschlafen haben. Es kommen doch ein paar ganz gute Änderungen, also mehr, als ich mir ursprünglich erwartet hätte. Das sieht auf jeden Fall mal schon solide aus. Ein paar Sachen sind dabei, also es fehlt halt immer noch ein bisschen Endgame, aber ich glaube, es ist auf einem guten Weg. Ja, es ist mal definitiv auf einem guten Weg. Man müsste sich jetzt mal anschauen mit den ganzen, vielleicht findet man da noch einen, ja, das war klar, dass Season 2 es war klar, dass Season 2 das Game nicht changen wird. Sie haben es ja auch schon beim Leak oder so, sagen wir mal so, beim Leak hat man es gesehen. Also jetzt mit der Beschleunigung sieht es für mich so aus, als würde dann Season 3 oder Season 4 das erste Add-on kommen und mit dem Add-on kannst du diese Beschleunigung wieder zurücknehmen. Also das muss man auch dazu sagen. Können wir uns einig sein, dass wenigstens der beste Campfire nach dem Release ist, oder? Das war jetzt kein Campfire, das war jetzt ein Entwickler-Talk. Also du musst Entwickler-Talk und Campfire differenziert betrachten, weil die andere Fokusse haben und andere Schwerpunkte. Aber es war sicherlich einer der besseren. Und so. Da haben sie jetzt rüber geradet und da ist gar keiner. Das ist natürlich schlecht. Das ist schlecht. Also vom Entwickler-Talk her war es definitiv einer der besseren. Jetzt ist die Frage, ob wir noch die Infos finden bezüglich der Patch Notes, also für die BTR. Wenn da jemand den Link hat oder wer das am schnellsten findet, schickt mir das einfach. Weil da könnte man nochmal grob wegen den Daten schauen. Mich würde es nämlich prinzipiell interessieren, wann jetzt die Season startet und wann die letzte Season endet, weil das wird ja alles an einem Tag passieren. Ja, das soll ja auch alles an einem Tag passieren. Das sehe ich jetzt hier nicht so optimistisch. Da bin ich mal gespannt, aber das Diablo 4 auf Steam, das hätte ich nicht geglaubt. Wenn das in einem Leak drinnen gestanden wäre, das wäre, glaube ich, nicht zum Glauben gewesen. Das wäre nicht zum Glauben gewesen. Dann lassen wir uns hier mal überraschen. Am 17.10. endet die Season und dann startet die neue. Ja. Was ist denn so schlimm? Nee, an Steam, ich finde das super, dass es auf Steam heraus ist, aber ich dachte nie, dass Blizzard den Schritt geht mit dem Diablo-Franchise, um es aus dem Battle.net rauszunehmen. Das dachte ich mir. Das ist ein Dienstag, ja, die nächste Season startet wieder zum Beginn der Woche. wie es damals auch schon ursprünglich mit dem Release war. Ja, dann könnt ihr euch die 4 im Steam Summer Sale für 15 Euro holen. Das glaube ich zwar weniger, aber man kann es ja mal probieren. Das glaube ich weniger, aber man kann es ja mal mehr oder weniger auch probieren. Patch Notes. Ja, es müssten theoretisch auch ein paar neuere kommen. Die Frage ist, ob die auch gleich die German Notes abhaben oder ob das alles erst morgen kommt. Das wird sich noch weisen. So langsam glaubt man, die wollen das Battle.net ein bisschen abschaffen, bevor sie von Microsoft gekauft werden. Ja, Steam Deck ist dabei. Das sieht auf jeden Fall nice aus. Also, das sieht auf jeden Fall schon mal ganz gut aus. Die Sockel kommen nicht, sie haben das anders geklärt. Es ist so, die Sockel, die droppen, also die Edelsteine, du findest so eine Art Edelsteinstaub und wenn du einen herstellst, ist der im Inventar. Aber alles, was du farmst, ist nicht im Inventar. Verstehst du? Also du findest jetzt die Edelsteine nicht mehr direkt, sondern du findest nur mehr Edelsteinstaub oder Bruchstücke oder was immer. Das ist nicht im Inventar und dann kannst du die beim Händler herstellen und dann müllen dir das nicht das Inventar zu. Ja, und auch eben von den ganzen Items und so weiter, da geht es auch nochmal. Also das sind schon ein paar gute Änderungen. Sie haben halt so Themen wie Lootfilter oder so, haben sie einfach geskippt. Das haben sie jetzt hier halt anders gelöst. Also ich bin nicht überzeugt davon, aber wir werden sehen, wie sie es jetzt in der ersten Season entwickelt. Und dann lassen wir uns mal hier überraschen und schauen mal, ob das dann, ja, ob es uns dann dahin führt, wo es uns hinführen soll. Schauen wir mal. Dann schauen wir mal, ob es uns dorthin führt, wo es hinführen soll. So, wenn wir jetzt hier, ist es das da vor einer Minute? Ich habe da mal nachgeschaut. Ja, die Blood-Season ist live. Hier, ich glaube, das müsste die Season sein mit dem großen Übersichts. Dann Fazit von Steam. Ich muss sagen, ich wäre wahrscheinlich bei einer 4 oder 5 von 10. Einfach, weil das mit dem Endgame und so weiter ein bisschen hinten ist und ich bin mir nicht sicher, ob das Beschleunigen die Diablo 4 Probleme löst. Weißt du, wie ich meine? Du gibst den Leuten jetzt mehr Farm Speed, mehr Movement Speed, mehr Cell Speed, mehr Items, mehr Level Speed und. Also ich bin mir nicht sicher, ob das hier mehr oder weniger der richtige Weg ist. Es wird natürlich, glaube ich, persönlich die Zahlen hochdrehen. Das glaube ich schon. Ja, auch hier mit der Blood-Season, das klingt alles ganz nett, aber es sieht für mich sehr stark, jetzt ist es da, wo es Diablo 3 ist. Also mit dem, wenn noch Sets oder so dabei hättest, dann wäre es mit Diablo 3. Hier wäre nochmal der Link zum englischen Patches, die sie jetzt drin haben. Das ist das, was wir da gerade zusammengefasst hatten. Was bin ich da jetzt drüber gefahren? Ich wollte eigentlich wissen. Tides, no. Siphon Blood, no. Reapers, Hunters, no. Conquest, no. Earn Rewards, no. Season and your stash items. Storm into the Season with Nvidia DLS. 3.0, okay. Also die Oktober 17. If you propose any digital edition, 17, you have this match to redeem the... Okay. Ich wollte eigentlich... Gibt es hier ein Datum, wann das genau passiert? Das wird dann wahrscheinlich noch kommen, ne? Welche Klasse spielst du in Seasons? Ah, da ist der Battle Pass. Hier. Der Season Battle Pass begins am 10 AM PDT. So, wo haben wir die Zeit um Rechner? Go. 17. Oktober, 10 AM, Pacific. 19 Uhr, 18 Uhr. Das wäre eine gute Zeit für uns für den Dienstag. 20 Uhr, okay, die Community ist ja unsicher, irgendwo 18, 19, 20. Und dann lassen wir uns mal überraschen. Heute war 11, okay, dann ist es 9, dann wäre es 19. 19 Uhr ist okay. Naja, 19 Uhr auf einen Dienstag, ne? Genau, also sie wollen einen flüssigen Übergang von Season 1 zu Season 2. Ich bin nicht ganz davon überzeugt, dass das hinhaut. Wir werden es aber sehen. Wir werden es aber sehen. Lassen wir es mal überraschen. Jo, ansonsten, das haben wir. Was gibt's hier noch? Irgendwas Cooles? Oh, wieder die Season-Reise, ne? Ist wieder genau das gleiche. Ja, Target Farming von Items finde ich gut. Mal schauen, ob das den Vibe von Diablo 2 bringt. Ich bin mir nicht sicher, ich meine, es wird jetzt die aktuelle Season wird das jetzt zeigen, ob der Hype von D2 beziehungsweise das Farming von D2 von den immer gleichen Bossen, ob das auch in die 4 gut ankommt oder nicht. Ja, da könnt ihr mir kurz hinschreiben, mögt ihr Diablo 2 Boss Farming, ja oder nein? Das könnt ihr ja mal kurz drunter hauen, da bin ich mal gespannt.